How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses with your favorite show host, RSL.
Mariam?
And Volatile, we're here to bring you the latest news and games commentary for the week. Yes.
Yeah, except none of that happened this week, so it's
Yeah,
fine.
and none of that happened. I haven't seen anything that qualifies as games news. So, yeah. I mean, I've seen a bunch of chatter, but it's mostly what I've seen is people talking about whatchamacallit, Schreier's new book. Did you see anything on that?
I did not.
Yeah, it's the book about his sort of like he was one of Kotaku's most influence mongering reporters, but what that meant is that he has heaps of actual connections.
Like a real journalist?
He is for better or for worse actually a journalist who does research.
Yes.
Even if he's a complete goober. But he released a book recently on basically the true story of Blizzard, what was going on behind the scenes, and that fundamentally trying to put everything on our boy Bobby as a crass oversimplification, because pretty much everybody there is to blame in some way, which does sound true.
It does. No, I missed that entirely. I've seen a few YouTubers pop up with commenting about Blizzard, but they've been doing that for years now, so not really surprising.
But yes, we're here to bring you those news and games commentary for this week, or we would if there were any. So instead, we'll just, yap for a couple of hours before Fern has to run away. Yep.
Yeah,
That's how we do.
Yapping as the Zoom.
Yes, they insistently, like whenever a Zoomer finds a new piece of slang, they just use it in every sentence.
They kill it really quick. Yeah,
they seem to wear out their slang faster than any other generation too.
Which is why I'm so nettled about localizers forcibly putting it into localizations of games, because it's going to make no sense within a couple of months.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see how those things are supposed to work.
That's how one type of them work. There are about 3 or 4 types of them.
Oh, right. Okay. So yeah, this is basically been my week. I put in an effort and actually progressed through some Genshin this week and got myself into Inazuma from the start of Liyue.
So you got to see just how awesome my girl Ningguang is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Does rich count as awesome? Because it's basically just look how much money I have and how much I can throw at the enemy, literally.
I'm going to crash this castle. I'm going to build a new one and potentially crash it again. Because money.
You can't do that without a certain level of chattery.
Yeah. As a lady, you're just showing off at this point. But Liyue, the story was fine, but it kind of dragged out a bit because you spend a lot of time running around doing odd jobs with an Archon who has a very questionable grasp of money.
Yeah, you have to go.
Invented it. He's allowed to have a questionable grasp of money.
But yeah, his questionable grasp comes from the fact that whenever he needed money, he just made it.
He
conjured out of nothing.
He did what Congress does.
God of inflation.
Yeah.
Did he sing to the Whopper Flower?
And the Whopper Flower, yes. Had to swing to the Whopper Flower. Also, because of the team build up I had at the time, those were cryo Whopper Flowers, and they kind of hurt.
Yeah.
Cryo Whopper Flowers kind of a pain in the best of times.
Wiki boys.
I do have Icky Boys today because I've been playing around with team comps and I've currently settled on a Kniich burn team.
That here's the thing with burning.
Burn is definitely on the up and up meta wise.
If you got Emily.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Emily will be back.
Yeah.
Well, basically, the way Kanish works is all you need to do is apply burn. All his damage otherwise comes from his elemental attack,
Yeah. I,
which exploits burn.
I don't know if he can work independent. Burn is quite bad without any characters as support, and I think Kanish and
But
Emily are the only two that
Kanish-
do.
Kanish directly synergizes, and they're not going to have just one character who synergizes. Like, he's definitely designed to play into the existence of Emily, but I strongly expect that Mavwika will as well.
The Pyro Archon.
Yeah.
Because
I'm fully
before
expecting Pyro to be.
before Kanish and Emily, burning was the worst Dendro reaction it was.
Burning, all it would do before is just tick away a little bit of damage, and that was about it.
I'm expecting that Mavwika will probably do for Pyro the sort of thing that Nahida does for Dendro.
Yeah.
They could do an oddball one and make an on-field Archon.
I mean, there are people who play Raiden Shogun on field.
I mean, yeah, you can do it.
There are people who play Zhongli on field.
We have a thing.
You need the. I think this is a level 3 one, so you need your tree. You'll eventually Oh, you get the tree.
Oh, okay. I have not done the tree
you
yet.
Get the tree.
Okay, where
So anyway,
that's in Azuba City. See the top of that big F off mountain?
Okay.
There's
that glowy thing up there.
There's a whole lot of Primo Gems waiting for you up there.
Ooh, I like Primo Gems.
A lot more than Primo Gems too.
And there's something big and glowy.
Probably more importantly, there's a whole lot of money up there.
Even if you like your Pyro team, though, Fern, if you're in Inazuma, you need an Electro character.
I do have a what? Oh, I'm blanking on a name now. Hang on, let me quickly look.
Got a catching.
I do have a catching.
Yeah, you're going to need it because lightning is everything in this country.
Yep.
Because of course it is.
And
no, this leans into it way harder than any other nation does.
Well, you straight up need a Dendro character for Sumeru, but you have Kanish as one of your mainstays, so that won't be an issue there.
Oops, hello, I made friends.
Here it is.
Well, Dendro is an element that synergizes with everything that's not an Emo or Geo, so you're going to be able to jam a Dendro into whatever team for the most part.
Or Cryo.
Yeah.
There are plenty of teams, like, Virgin teams are not interested in Electro stuff. Yeah. Well, Cryo doesn't exist. Cryo's not a thing. Cryo's like physical.
Oh, you exploded.
This is what we're talking about when we say the Hilichurls have better infrastructure than the people of Inazuma. They actually have a house.
They do.
Instead of all the homeless samurai you're beating up on the beach.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll finish off with Liyue first. But so that was a fun story, and the cap off boss fight was oh no, help!
Oh,
there we go. The cap off boss fight was pretty fun and pretty spectacular. Then you go into the rebuilding of the Jade Chamber quest line, which you meet following around an emotionally stunted girl with way too much power. But that was fun.
I need people to sign my Ningguang should be a 5-star petition.
Ningguang can pay to become a 5-star in her own right.
Well, she probably wouldn't. She would probably buy other 5-stars to do the work for her.
That's actually true. So yeah, there's the opera at I'm going to use the translated term called opera because it's it doesn't translate directly, but that did not need to go nearly as hard as it did at the end there.
Well, this is going to be a cultural pride thing. Like you can, if you do something like that in your game, you're going to get butt pattery from the CCP. Like you're going to earn brownie points with them to let you get away with other stuff.
Diggy hole, please.
On Twirly's on cooldown.
Yeah. So yeah,
he's a lightning character.
Oh,
I got Twirly. I got Twirly. We're good.
All right, thank you.
Surely.
So yeah, the fact that they did that whole song, they didn't translate it, and I'm really grateful for that.
A lot of people thought a lot of Americans actually thought that it was terrible.
I was
because cultural myopia.
Yeah.
I do not like that style of performance in China. I know it's regional and a point of pride and all that, but I don't.
Well, there's a Japanese vocal tradition that's almost identical.
Yeah,
in
I don't
terms
I
of
don't like it there either.
It's not a Chinese specific thing.
Yeah.
You'll find it all over the Far East.
Yeah.
It's just one of the methods of singing.
Yeah. It's just so cool to see another culture in there like that, showing something that is genuine to them.
Oh, we're stuck.
It's just really cool. So after that, the game at that point decided to slam on the brakes, say, no, you're not going to Inazuma. You need to go find Batman,
Luke?
DeLuke.
Luke was part of that quest?
No, but after you do the Jade Chamber, there's a lock point there where you need to go and kind of catch up on what the Abyssal Order's been doing.
Oh, not DeLuke. You mean Dainsleif?
Yes, DeLuke. Also Dainsleif. Dainsleif is the other half of that quest I was going to come to in a moment.
Well, he's not rich.
He is mysterious and spoopy and runs around not using a vision.
But his superpower isn't money.
No, he's not.
It is in fact the opposite of money. I'm pretty sure Dainsleif has no cash.
Yeah, he's in Morax's club.
Yeah.
Except that he can't make money.
In fact, I think
I guess Morax can't now I can't now either because it all
Not
came
now
out
he's
of
lost
his
his
gear source.
MacGuffin, no.
Big John can probably spawn more money than Dainsleif.
Well, not anymore. He lost his MacGuffin.
I don't know. That's what I mean.
And it's sort of hard to tell how profitable his boss's business really is.
Yes.
I mean, she's always angling for new clients.
I really like Hu Tao as a character. If Primos weren't so tight, I would definitely be pulling for because her banner is soon.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's
I
running
think she's
beside
really
Nahida
fun.
though.
Yeah, I know. So it's basically a lost cause. Like, and pulling a pyro immediately before Mavwika comes out is kind of that would be bad juju. But as a character though, I really really like Hu Tao.
We got another banner before Mavwika comes out, or is it?
We don't know when Volvika's coming out. There's no official announcement. There's no kits on the league servers yet. No anything.
There is she's not the last one to come out of because they give characters have an ID in the code.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a different ID series for playables versus NPCs. And Malvika is on the playables list, and I think she's like the third to last of the characters that are on there. And we've met pretty much all of the characters except I think one that are currently on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's not the character who's currently on the new event.
So
Well,
we're only only in like 5.0 right now. And the number of characters layout, unless they interleave some more, Mavwik is likely to be back of 5.2, start of 5.3.
Because they still got the Bird Tribe girl, they've got the Bone girl, although she may be a 4-star. And got who else? I feel like we met more characters.
There's one we haven't met who is on the list, and she's the one that makes the device that you use to what was it? You like you break the thing, and you were told not to break it.
Oh, that thing.
Break it.
Yeah, the woman who makes that thing. Apparently, she's like a real old granny, but she looks really young for whatever reason.
Lollipag, got it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I think that she's arguably the cutest character in this nation, which is frustrating. But
So yeah. But yeah, I ended up running around with DeLuke for a bit. As part of that, I do Dainsleif's quest, and Dainsleif being all weird and mysterious. But it sent me down various other tangents that I had to do in order to progress those. So as part of that, I went talk to a furry in the forest, and I learned how to play cards from a talking cat.
Oh,
in a tiny hat.
Right, I remember this barrage of diatribes the game sends you on right when you finish Liyue.
Yep.
It's coming back to me now. You don't
So a
have
lot
to
of it-
do most of those, by the way.
I know a lot of it was just progressive enough for the for this NPC to go to the place you need them to be, but
Okay,
I ended
good.
up kind of just going through with them.
The teleport point up
'Cause,
here is just a
there
regular one,
was-
not a statue of the sun.
Okay, yeah, I'll be up there in a sec. I'm just found a treasure chest, and I just threw a hilly. Oh, why? Okay, I gotta fight hilly shells on the cliffside.
Coming.
I can't. I was going to teleport to where you guys are, but you haven't unlocked the point. You're just standing on it.
Oh, that's because he's
So I'm
he's-
gonna stand here looking at this empty statue of the Seven.
Yes.
coming in hot. Oh man, you're way down there.
Yeah, it's such a stupid layout for combat here. Okay, there we go. Now climb back up.
But I'm sure everything must have gone comparatively smoothly for you from a traversal perspective since you've got Kinich.
Kinich, especially
He
when it
solves
comes
a lot
to...
of problems. No, you don't just have Kinich, you have Kinich and Kitching.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
so I
every
can
kind
get
of movement or
anywhere.
teleportation,
Yeah.
you've just got on tap.
Ah, fall off another cliff.
Yeah, catching can solve a whole lot of the double jump problems. You don't need elevated platforms anymore. But she's not.
Johnny's ban is coming up soon. If you want to actually fly,
Yeah. So it's while she was handy getting around, she's got nothing on Kanish in terms of horizontal movement. You can just zoom.
with Chiori and Kinich, you can literally fly. You just alternate between them. You can go pretty much anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Even just Kinich on his own or catching as well. The amount of time you save doing various puzzles for Culises and stuff is great.
I will.
Yeah. I'm sure that you are, however, somewhat puzzled by Arjor and the whole aesthetic. Don't worry, there is no explanation forthcoming.
Oh, I know why he looks the way he does, and it is solely a reference.
Oh no, that's
Dude's
not
a Digimon.
Like
that's what he's a reference to.
But
no. The rest of his story isn't. But
that's not what we mean. We mean in universe. There is literally no reason given yet why the heck Ajal looks like he's from a fucking NES game.
Oh, okay, yeah. So he's. I get that the whole thing. I think they are trying to create a reference to Digimon, but they didn't explain any of it really.
I can't think of any Digimon that's like Arjor.
It's the wrist thingy more that kind of clues you in. Because he lives in a square device on Kinich's wrist.
Oh, so he's a Tamagotchi.
Well, Digimon, Tamagotchi, depends on which side of the gender divide you stand on.
Tamagotchis are egg-shaped, aren't they?
They are egg-shaped, yes. Whereas Digimon are square.
I thought they were cross-shaped.
Depends on
some of the later ones were.
Yeah,
I'm old.
The earliest ones were like a circle with rounded edges.
No,
that's when they were trying to actively ape Tamagotchis, yeah.
Inverted teardrop shape.
But the most popular design is kind of that brick prison.
The inverted teardrop was the D2s and the D3s. Those were the second and third one.
But
it's
anyway,
all too complicated. I wasn't a Digimon person.
Yeah. Anywho, I did look into Ajor's story kind of a little bit to figure out just what the hell, and it's kind of a cool story actually. I'm kind of interested to see where they take it. But
the thing with
he's gonna turn out all of his boasting is true, and he's actually like the Pyro Dragon or something.
Yeah, the thing with Ajor is we don't know how much is him grandstanding and how much is him just telling us the truth, and we're just like
nobody will listen because he's a cunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much of it is him just being a butt?
Literally. Why does he have a butthole?
Why does he insist on waving it?
Those two questions answer each other.
Yeah, because he is a butthole. Oh, there's a Culus up there. I'm going to cheat to get it. Oh, not. So yeah, I do like Kinich's playstyle is a lot of fun. It's very fast and kinetic.
It does have the Mualani shoe though.
It do.
It is very fun and active and involves a lot of movement, and it's subject to all the issues that come with that.
But
Yeah.
I think that if you're just playing casually, I don't think it matters all that much.
Yeah,
Not
it's
really.
It does the trick.
Like he's a lot of fun to play, and he can dish out quite a lot of damage. He's very glass cannony though.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And
he's at the new character level of power,
yeah,
so he's going to be more powerful. That's just the way things are. I mean, This is the big downfall of the gacha game is that the company can't. Not only do they have no interest in maintaining a power balance from beginning to end, but it's in fact contraindicated for them to do so. They'll stop making money if their launch characters are as powerful as their characters.
yeah. So naturally, power creep is going to get in there. There is another Culus marked here, but I can't see where it is.
had to switch to Yamiko. Ryan.
But is she sitting right there? No, she's not.
Oh, I don't think she comes out. This is her house.
Yeah.
As
So
if,
yeah.
in case you couldn't tell from all the lightning and foxes everywhere.
Yes. Thunder Fox.
And the total absence of living birds.
Although I am extremely wary and suspicious of any pink-haired shrine maidens.
You should be wary and suspicious of Yamiko.
Yamiko is by far my favorite character in Inazuma. Like I adore her. She's so much fun.
Well, so far everyone I've encountered has been either been greasy or been a butt. Or both.
I think that you will be able to empathize with Yamiko because Yamiko's purpose in life for the past few hundred years has been to troll literally everybody she comes into contact with, all the way to the ground.
Goal.
And she has a new master project in Goro that is a wonderful little dumb side story.
Nice.
Goro, the single most gaslit person in Inazuma.
She has a standee.
Oh, right, the standee. You mentioned that before.
The Miss Hina standee. Me and Vol were brainstorming ideas on how they can just take this joke and keep running with it before the show.
Get multiple different standees of different characters.
Unfortunately, we can't go into them since they're spoilers for the story, such as it is.
Yep.
Because there is a story in Inazuma, it's just told poorly. Like, I think my opinion is that Inazuma has the bones of a really great story. Like, this could have been a great chapter, and it wasn't because they dropped the ball on actually delivering.
Is Inazuma the part where you spend 2 weeks with those guys?
Yeah, you spend 2 weeks with the Resistance.
A black screen does. A black screen spends 2 weeks with the Resistance.
And that's another thing, actually.
You clearly know who they are.
And you're...
So far, I've only just started Inazuma, and I've only just opened it up to be actually explorable as we started the show. But even through that little bit, I've started to see cracks. Like, particularly when you actually arrive at the country, it's like you have the kind of that tournament thing, and that's just kind of there to introduce a little bit of vision lore. So fine. And then says, okay, everyone on the boat, we're going to Inazuma. There's a big old storm wall we've got to get through first, though. No, black screen.
I mean,
just suddenly hand waves, and now you're in Inazuma.
That's not so bad. The first island isn't really that bad. It's immediately after the first island where it just starts to, any potential it had starts to crash and burn and fall apart.
You'll feel it. You'll feel this the grip of the game on the story it wants to tell start to slip.
Like
they'll stop telling story, just really abruptly. That you'll start to see that the depth of writing that went into the scene setting, because they're, as much as the beginning can be a bit frustrating because they just make you run in circles talking to people, you can see what they're trying to set up very clearly. But there's the vividness with which they approach that just stops after a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's just like they're rushing you from place to place just to make you step on every island once type of thing.
Oh.
Yeah, you're going to see very quickly why they time-gated stuff in this area.
I still haven't done Inazuma because so much of it is like artificially lengthened and it's just to do.
Yeah, this zone has the most aggressive time gating in any part of Genshin. Like, there's
unfortunately, this is the zone that they were working on when the plague happened. So
yeah, like this zone was in development, when Koof was happening, and you can tell. Because you will just get to, like, there's a whole island out there that just had a nuke dropped on it, and you got to turn off the radiation. And this is a daily quest that goes on with every daily reset for, I think, 2 full weeks.
But why though?
It's time gated by 2 weeks of real world time because they had to pad it out. They did not have anything in terms of story or content or events and stuff written for the time Inazuma was released, so they had to pad it. And they can't just retroactively remove it, I guess, or they feel they can't, because it would invalidate all the work that people put through that actually sat through and endured the time gating. They don't want to piss those people off.
So if you want to do that story now, you've got to go still do the same old time gates.
Yeah, I kept forgetting about it and having to remember, like, oh, I only checked in with the nuclear bomb site 3 times this week. I need to go back. Oh, I forgot about the talking cat that's time gated by 10 days. I have to go talk to him again. These are all side quests that are totally skippable, and I recommend you skip them.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to go back and do a lot of the stuff though, because there's primos behind it.
There's a lot of primos behind it by the sound of it. That's kind of why I did the card game quests, because there was a whole lot of primos there too.
The card game, having it unlocked is handy because it can help you, especially if you're going for Battle Pass. Because if you decide to buy a Battle Pass one month, for example, getting your Battle Pass levels up is important to get all the rewards, and you have a weekly cap on how much you can give to the Battle Pass. You usually have a week and some change left over. If you,
I think my record is completing it with 2.5 weeks to spare, and I never do the card game.
Yeah, but the card game is a weekly challenge that is extra that you can use to push you to the weekly cap. You don't need to do it normally to get the weekly cap, but if you just need weekly cap and you are not in a position resin-wise to get the other junk on the Battle Pass, you can go do the card game.
All right.
But
you've got to be decent at card games, and I'm not.
But
I can't do it. I just lose all the time.
As in Genshin, so goes the card game, and that Fischl will save your life, or rather Oz will, and make your life infinitely easier if you do decide to get into it. You can't kill it. In fact, I would ignore those almost every single time they pop up.
They don't actually accomplish anything?
One has given me a chest once.
They're not worth it. Like, most of the time you'll follow it around and it'll give you a few more, and that'll be it.
If that. Sometimes it'll just give you a radish.
Ah.
That's true, technically. I remember getting a radish.
Stupid Tanuki.
Yeah, if you see...
it gave me a grey relic. Yay.
Yeah, not even worth the time you spent chasing him.
No. And he only just happened to pop up where I was, so yeah, okay. Where was I going? So yeah, at least on doing that card game quest, it's an enjoyable enough quest. This talking cat is weird, but then it caps off in only the way such a quest could when they're all talking about Yu-Gi-Oh and all this, and that is the sheer degree of ham leaking out from around a door when Fischl turns up.
I like how they made Sino the most ardent player of the in-universe TCG.
Yeah, they know, and they bring it up in his part 2 of his story quest, where there's a section of it where you're just on a camping trip with the Sumeru people, and he immediately, the activity he wants to do when you're all settling down to stay in the tent tonight is, you know what time it is. And he starts getting ready to bust out his Yu-Gi-Oh deck and duel you, and Kale's just like, "Nah, I'm out of here."
Do you know who we're talking about, Fern?
I have not encountered that person yet.
I will get you a picture.
Oh no. Okay, what are we doing with these ones now?
I already solved this one.
Okay.
You got the chest, I think.
Well, what did you do? What do you have to do? I don't understand.
Oh, you had to make them all the same.
Oh, okay.
But they're all the same now, so they're locked. There was one hidden under a rock.
Okay. There are a lot of beetles. Should probably build up a stockpile of beetles.
Are you planning to pull Ito?
I think Ito might be him. Maybe one other character used the beetles. Okay, I'm posting it in live show chat. This is our Yu-Gi-Oh lover.
Whoops.
Yeah,
I fell off the cliff.
during Sino's part 2 of his story quest, when he starts going into Yu-Gi-Oh mode, Kale is just like, nah, I'm out of here.
Yeah. So I have run into some issues playing with Kinnick. He does Kinich. He does tend to get into trouble when you're zooming around in confined spaces.
Yeah,
And also, you tend to zoom around in fire a lot, and Kinich does not have a whole lot of health.
The passive fire damage you take from environmental damage will be outscaled by the artifacts you get that'll increase your HP as your world level goes up, but the burning damage will go up with it. It's just you will eventually have so much more HP that the even with the increased passive fire damage, it doesn't.
Yeah, the what are they? The Obsidian series.
No, like any of the artifacts that just have HP on them. You don't have 5-star artifacts with a gajillion HP on them.
Okay, no, I do not.
Because the flower will.
World those.
Yeah, the like when you get an orange flower, it will always have HP on it as its primary stat. There is no other primary stat for flowers.
Yep.
And that'll get you like 10k minimum if you max that out.
I know I need to lean on Barbara all the time.
No, you will always need to lean on Barbara.
Barbara will continue to save your life forever.
Barbara
Unless you like pull someone like Kokomi, who is like a better Barbara, except you can't. Well, okay, I say you can't play Kokomi on field, but I found out today that there are people who do play DPS Kokomi, despite the fact that Kokomi has a passive that is you can't crit.
It is literally gives her a base minus 85% crit rate.
Oh yeah, she's just never going to crit then.
Yeah, she has the anti-damage stat.
Got to your healer though.
Yeah,
the only real competition for Barbara as far as healing is concerned.
Yeah, but the one, the only, the immortal idol of Mondstadt will be on your team forever in actuality.
If you need healing, Barbara's your girl.
Yep.
The reason me and Vol can get away with doing dumb crap is because I bring Barbara. Like Florinda, Archon of Dendro, good old Nahida, the Shuttlecock, all that's all well and good. They're not the MVPs.
No.
It's Barbara.
Yeah, Barbara gives you the freedom to do whatever else you want, because in the end, you can just hit her ult and all your health will be back.
Or you can just keep her singing and keep splashing, and as long as you don't get insta-deleted, she will fix it.
Yeah. Oh, we just got different looking Sealies this time around too, do we?
Yeah.
Just this one time. Just this one time.
Oh, well, the Electro Selays, I imagine, were on the feedback thing of please no more Electro Selays. I keep losing them.
I lose regular Sealies.
You'll
lose.
These
ones, the Electro ones that will teleport around spastically. So
yeah, that one did actually.
Also note that they pulse Electro around them, and when you get near them, they'll electrify you, which can be used to solve puzzles.
Ah. As long as you don't have that going on in combat.
Oh, and
you don't want it to.
Well, they will. You're going to get zapped because of them if you fight near them.
Yeah, you will. Also, Baidu in this region is incredibly handy to have, even at level 1, as just a if you don't know how to solve a puzzle, you can turn Baidu into a makeshift node, especially the link together multiple node puzzles, because she can electrify herself.
I can't say I ever actually found that useful.
I used it a few times.
It didn't seem to work. It didn't seem to work most of the time when I tried to use it. I presume that you could do the same thing with like Raiden Shogun or whatever.
Yeah, I tried it with Fischl and a few other electrical characters, but Baidu was the only one that applied the electro debuff to herself.
It's the imbue thing.
Yeah. So yeah, you're well on your way out of the old Genshin tiering to get to the much better stuff. Once you're in,
I'm just going to get through the worst bit first.
Yeah,
it has its good points, but they're only points embedded within a matrix of disappointment.
Yeah, it's the first part is pretty good, or it's okay at least. I like the first island to explore anyway. After the first island, it gets rough.
Yeah. I'm wondering how much of it is like they were doing everything regularly and kind of building up, and then the plague just hit and just destroyed everything they were working on.
Well, that, and it was also their first additional zone that they didn't have any planned out stuff for.
Yeah.
Like, they the initial design document probably had, and we'll add these regions later after Mondstadt.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun, but that's basically been my week. It's just been chewing on Genshin.
Yeah, you were asking me in the middle of the week about the hole. I hummed and hawed about it
Yeah.
when you mentioned it, because I thought about just letting you do it, but I think the hole will be a much better experience if Inazuma is behind.
Yep.
Because I went into it not knowing about Inazuma and how Inazuma happened and how it would go down. So it didn't hurt me. But if I had known that I had the Inazuma story as the only thing to look forward to after the hole, it would have really sat worse with me. I think Ball did the hole first.
I did it at whatever time you recommended I do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm going to do Inazuma first, and then I'm going to go do the hole because I think that's where the main quest breadcrumbs you anyway.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to do the hole to do the intermission quest between Sumeru and Inazuma.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you're in Sumeru, you're off to the races, and the hole is fun to explore. It's a little experimental with a bit of clunk in some of the design there, but it's mostly fun.
Their experimental stuff tends to be very interesting. It doesn't always work, but at least it's interesting.
Hope you like moon shoes.
It's a zone that is a little bit better for somebody like me who tends to experience a little bit of decision paralysis when put in an open world environment, because it's an open world environment but it has walls.
Yes.
And it just keeps going. You'll think you're at the bottom about 4 times. You're not.
It's a very, very deep hole.
And then there's the sheesh room.
Oh yeah, that thing. Fucking mushroom.
That's just never seems to be referred to ever again for whatever reason.
Wonder if Nahida can read its mind, because it might be over the Sumeru border.
All right. Electro-Sealy! Time for a headache.
But yeah. And after the hole, you're pretty much off to the races. It's all the mechanics are, I think, pretty fun from then on. And the story gets way better. Also, from that point on, the whole onwards, even late Inazuma onwards, the story quests start to really skyrocket in quality too. And I was mentioning before, when I say story quests,
also in verbosity.
Yeah, they do get quite a bit chunkier.
Like you now need to be conscious of how much time it might take you to do a story quest. Like for instance, the hole 2 with Yellen.
Oh, Electric Boogaloo hole.
Yeah, the whole.
I was down there a long time, and I literally fell asleep at one point because they spent so long talking, and the quest had turned out to be so much longer than I expected. It was late at night, and I literally fell asleep during the quest.
Oh dear.
Yeah, the continuation is a good quest, but it's a very long one.
Oh yes, I enjoyed it. I felt like it was written quite well, and it does have like a moving emotional through line on the story, with a really decent payoff if you feel invested in the characters and their stories.
It has Ito. How can you not be? You have Ushi.
It was a good quest. The problem was that I underestimated how long it would take.
Yeah, this is where you're introduced to Ushi's dance moves. We'll call them.
He is the boogie ball. The boogie ball. There you go. Yeah. Say that 10 times fast.
Full of boogie.
Doesn't matter what mood he's in. Doesn't matter if he's happy or sad or angry. He's still boogieing.
Moo.
I actually need to make some more food because I've started to run out.
This is why you need Barbara.
Well, I've got Diona, Barbara, or John.
Barbara.
All 3 of them do the same thing.
No, they don't. Barbara's the best. It is not even close. For casual explorer in the world and keeping your health up, oh yeah, nobody beats Barbara.
Okay, they're all just saying extra 12% double product.
Oh no, that not that. I thought you meant I thought you meant healing in the world. I wouldn't talk about cooking.
Oh, no, this is just
Look,
cooking.
It's Diona. Diona's the go-to.
Yeah.
Raiden Shogun is not. Raiden Shogun is the sole character in the game that can't cook.
Character cannot cook.
It could be worse, I suppose. They need more characters like damn it. I just got distracted by cooking ourselves. But certain characters like Amber should not cook, but they do anyway. And their specialty recipes kind of reflect that.
Oh, what was the Princessins one? I remember hers being absolute.
It's got to be
It's
something
going to
that
be
tastes
named
like
in German, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I gotta find it. I think it's made of meat, so it's there it is.
It's going to have the most overblown description.
Oh, good lord. Die Heelig Symphony.
Yeah, okay.
I can't say that crap to save my life. There you go. I posted it. And is a fizz damage food? Oh, official. You're just trolling people now.
Yeah, that's appropriately chuny. The exquisite presentation doth seem to communicate some incomprehensible enigma. Yeesh.
What does it mean? It means something like the Holy Symphony or something, right?
Probably.
Something like
My
that.
German is quite bad.
It's... Hang on.
It isn't Chuny German. It might not be real German. We don't know.
She does spread a lot of chuny German.
Yeah, the Holy Symphony.
Yeah.
I just asked Google Translate.
So did I at the same time. So yeah, the Holy Symphony. In an appropriately over-the-top and overblown way, it's got everything on it. Stir-fried fish noodles. I just need a bunch of basic healing food because I'm not running around with Barbara at the moment.
Sino just makes a pyramid for his food of rice.
It's just a pyramid of rice.
It's utilitarian, I guess.
It's called Dual Soul, and it's shaped like the Millennium Puzzle.
Oh, there it is.
Oh my goodness. They know, but they have managed to be appropriately subtle to avoid attracting attention from whoever owns Yu-Gi-Oh these days. It's not Konami anymore, is it?
I think
still Konami?
I think Konami
I think it's
does.
still Konami.
Yeah, I think they still got it.
I thought they pretty much sold all of their important IPs at this point.
No, they sat on a few of them. Make radish veggie stew. I can make bulk of that. That'll do. Okay, there we go. And can I? All right. So yeah, I'm gonna leave my week of that. The only other little bits is I've just gone through and unlocked a whole bunch of other stuff as well. I've unlocked the card game, which we've talked about. Unlocked fishing, which it's just fishing.
You will want to eventually get a weapon called the Catch, and eventually you will want to max it out from
The
fishing.
I think I saw that in
AKA
Mondstadt, wasn't it?
Best free-to-play weapon for basically everybody.
Yeah, the Catch
And
is
you can only have one of them.
Yeah, it is the best weapon for polearm users, period, end, for pretty much everybody that's free to play, almost without exception.
I don't have it. It's just take too long to get.
It was fishing. I had to do it.
Yeah, fishing's not hard. It's just kind of there.
I have the fishing nameplate from fishing so much.
So yeah, I'm gonna live my week at that because I'm just gonna run around and be Kinnick, I guess. I do need to get over there and actually get some better relics though, because I'm still running around at 4-star relics.
Yeah. What's your world level at?
34.
Okay, so you can rank up your world next to the rank.
Yes. And then the one after that is when you start getting your 5-star relics. Which means it's farming time.
I need to get you. Eventually, you will catch up to us on world level, and you can come into our worlds, and we can properly do stuff without having to worry about me and Vol wasting our resin, and you getting one shot, and we can actually bust out our real characters and try some meme teams.
Yes.
It'll take a while.
Oh, yeah,
we
all the time.
Oh, we can level up the Yao Yaos.
We can level up the Yao Yaos.
What's your current max level? 50?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I've been keeping my Kachina at 50, so I don't overlevel your world.
I think my Yao Yao's at 50.
I'm keeping my Yao Yao at 52.
Okay, I gotta rotate these ones. So if I do that. Oh, I cannot rotate all of them. That's dumb. Never mind, solved it. Okay, so yeah, there's a bunch of new puzzles here, but nothing really kind of obscure yet, I found.
Oh, wait till you get some of them underground. Paul had to call in an assist for one of them on the show.
Most of the problems that I have with these is that I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do.
Usually, you either want to get all of them to have the same number of petals, all of them to face the same direction, or all of them to face the same direction and have the same number of petals, or one of them will have a conspicuous set of petals that never changes, and you need all the other petals that are changeable in the puzzle to match that number of petals.
That last one sounds like a headache.
And sometimes you add that on top of the other ones. They get exponentially more complicated, and the answer to the one on the last island, right before you jump in the big hole to go to Kokomi's house, is go look it up. Because I spent multiple hours trying to figure it out, and had to give up on the last one.
I found a couple of puzzles around Leeway as well that I think they're only possible to solve with multiple players.
I only know of one puzzle like that, and it's not that important.
No, it wasn't. I didn't find any that are really important. I think it only had an exquisite chest or something in it. But it was basically you need a player to stand on this button.
Okay, so Geo Traveler.
Oh yeah, Geo Traveler does as well. Well, it needed 2 weights on the button.
Okay, Geo Traveler again, because you can have 3 of them out.
Okay, well in that case, you're asking me to use Geo Traveler. That button's never getting solved.
Use then.
Yeah, one of them can be the Hellbeast.
The Hellbeast is not as cooperative as I'd like.
How did you find so many robots?
They're all just here.
Oh, you found those robots.
I found those robots.
Found these robots. I'm coming. Get on the cliffs.
I burned to death.
Orly is here.
I will revive at the nearest statue of the 7. What? Where am I?
Oh no, I got.
Oh boy. Keep the dream alive.
Why? Why am I here?
Where are you?
I'm underground. I revived underground next to a teleport point that Fern hasn't unlocked.
Huh? Okay. I don't know how that actually can happen.
Well, because I've unlocked that one on mine. I guess that's where it is pulling it from.
Guess.
We must defeat robots.
We must robots.
We're making progress. My 92 damage.
I do about that much damage also.
Twirly hits for like 800, but Twirly's got a very long cooldown.
Yeah. Okay, I need to actually check something. I'm not sure if it's actually a reaction or if it's actually Kinnich's ultimate that spreads fire, but
It's grass that spreads fire. There's
Is
grass.
grass?
Yes, you're fighting on grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you light fire on grass, you will experience the dilute problem of you're always on fire.
Everything is on fire. Unfortunately, though, that tends to be the best way to play Kinich, is zooming around in the fire.
This is why you will never fire Barbara.
Oh.
He went down. If you're looking for where that silhouette.
Okay, I see why these things are annoying now.
Yeah.
Salos.jp.
There's a Q-list right off the edge, by the way.
Oop. Yoink.
I don't know where he went when he went down. He just went down. Oh, he's over here. He's in the water.
But why, though?
Oh, he's gonna make you use the Wave Rider.
Oh.
Oh.
I do not have the Wave Rider yet, because that is, I am assuming, hidden
Nope.
behind.
Nope, you got it.
story.
Now talk to it again.
You just summon it.
Get in the boats.
There are 3 of them. Oh,
That's
great.
still your boat.
Furthest one.
Ah! Pew! Where'd he go?
It's right here.
Oh, there it is. Coming back.
Battle boats.
Brrr. Bonk.
And there she goes. Into
Uh,
the distance.
Who thought this was a good idea?
Don't try and
Somebody
fight.
who was down with the flu at the time.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, don't try and fight anything in the boats. By the way, the boats are bad.
Tends not to go well.
Maybe with 3 boats, we will have enough firepower to kill 1 pack.
Is there anything to be
wouldn't bet on it.
gained by fighting things in the boat?
No.
Absolutely not. I'm stuck.
Ow.
Goodness, these things
Rude.
handle terribly. They just regenerated, didn't they?
Yeah, we can't.
They did.
We can't fight them in the boat. Right. So, Vol, your week. This Fern's got to run.
Let's see. I don't really feel like I had much of a week, generally speaking. Let's see. Work has been absolute chaos all week, so I haven't really had much time to do anything. I've been just doing a lot of late nights, basically, and it's only going to get worse. Fortunately, don't become manager of anything. It's not worth it.
No.
It's awful. Anyway, so this week on Genshin, I haven't done very much of anything. I think the only new thing that I did was the Scions of the Canopy tribal quest, which it doesn't have the same sort of level of like emotional resonance as this People of the Springs one did. It's not quite as good, but it's not bad either. Like, especially considering it's just a side quest and it's still better than Dawn Trail. It's ultimately going to end up being the yardstick for everything. Is that Dawn Trail was that bad? So everything with a marginally coherent narrative is going to end up looking better. But yeah, it was okay. I did get some chuckles out of it. I did enjoy doing it because you meet a certain individual again who
I forgot about.
He's like the Abyss's Team Rocket, I guess. Well, no, that's not even really fair. He's just like he's a villain. He's on the bad guy's side, but he's just kind of a 2-bit functionary. He doesn't have any lofty ambitions for, ruling the world or defeating the good guys or anything like that. He just, he's just this guy. He's a clerk. But he's a clerk for the Abyss. So he is on their side, but he's just not really very good at anything. And so you basically just end up bullying him every time you meet because he's the Abyss guy and he's the bad guy. He's definitely not on your side, but he's totally outmatched and he knows he's totally outmatched. And he's just got to sort of go through the motions because he's a baddie.
The Abyss team contract says I gotta make trouble for you, but look, I'm just punch
I
clocking.
really don't wanna.
I'm just punch clocking this, my guys. I really just wanna be a goofball. He's gonna turn out to be the big bad of all the big bads.
Either that, or
Which
he's
is try
going
to
to,
be.
you know, heel face turn and join your side at the end. You have some key piece of information, but his boss is getting in his way or something,
He'll forget.
preventing him from enjoying life.
He'll forget to lock the door to your cell when you get kidnapped by the Abyss people.
Okay.
And then when confronted about it, he'll just shrug and say, "Well, why did you give me that job? This is supposed to be the most dangerous person in the world."
Yeah, but it was 501 when you told me to lock him up. So that's overtime, and you didn't pay me.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody pays him, but yeah, you meet him in one or two other places, and he's just as pathetic there. Initially, when you first meet him, he does talk a big game because he looks just like the other Abyss Lectors, but he's not really all that. But yeah, so there was still enjoyment to be had in that quest chain. I certainly enjoyed doing it. I don't consider it a waste of my time. It just wasn't quite at the sort of narrative level as the People of the Springs one was. But yeah, I feel a certain amount of pressure now to do exploration, though, although I haven't had time to really do it, simply because they're going to give rewards for it in the next patch, like percentage-based rewards on how much percent you've got in a given area.
Okay. There's a lot of people out there who are going to really cash in on Mondstadt.
I think it's only for the new zones.
It's only for the new zones. It's only going to
Okay.
be a going forward thing. It's not going to be retroactive. And it's going to be at like, they're not going to be huge rewards, but it is going to be Prima Gems from what I understand, at sort of like 20, 40, 60, 80. Well, I don't think there's a 100 one because people would get annoyed because 100 is almost impossible to get into a lot of zones because there's no way of figuring out what you're missing.
Yeah, but, 80 is you made an attempt to mow. If you screwed up pretty spectacularly or miss a few side quests or miss you'll be fine.
Yeah, 80 I think 80 sounds doable. Like I've got 60s and 70s in a lot of Netland zones, so I think that if I actually attempted to mow the lawn instead of just bouncing from locale to locale, I could probably get to 80. But I got to spend some time on it. But it's a reasonably nice place to navigate. The downside, I guess, is that it feels more like a World of Warcraft expansion than some of the other zones do, in the sense that it feels kind of theme parky.
Yep.
Rather than the other places, like, you know, even Fontaine, the most recent one, to me feels more like real locations than Netland does, and Netland feels like it's like Jurassic Park for kids sort of thing.
Yeah, it is very subdivided, that Netland. You are.
I mean, the whole tribal thing is probably enhancing that appearance, but like I think that probably Sumeru probably the most feels like a place. Partly because there's multiple different biomes rather than just all being on theme, but also in no small part because it kind of feels a little bit hostile in a lot of ways, because particularly early on when you've got withering zones everywhere and that type of thing, where like the environment feels kind of a little bit hostile.
Yeah, we found one that I hadn't got the other week on the show. I thought I got them all. I did not. I missed one.
He did not want to come down, man.
But you're John. That's what you do.
I've never played her before. This is the first time I'm using her. I don't know what she does.
I don't know how it works. I just know you can spin things in the air. Dang it! Huh. Twirly can't get him.
Oh no. Gravity is a harsh mistress, except when she's deciding not to come to work.
Fell off.
It's not my fault. I don't know how this character works.
It's okay, we got him, I think.
Now the real question is the key in one of the boxes up here or on the ground, or is it on his corpse?
anyway, that was a
Not
thing.
up here. Do I
So
let this
Star
guy out,
Rail.
or do I go get the Staley?
This week on Star Rail, the Ling Sha banner came out, and so I pulled Ling Sha, and Ling Sha is adorable. She's sort of, because she's got so much of a thematic overlap in terms of power with Gallagher. Most people have been saying, "Oh, don't pull her, don't pull her." I took the same reasoning I have used for so many other characters in Star Rail and just thirst pulled her because I like how she looks. So I've got Ling Sha now. I put her in my break team and tried her out yesterday, and she's kind of a monster. Like, under the right circumstances, she can do an awful lot of damage. Or not so much her, really. She hits like a wet noodle. Her bunnies, on the other hand, they are a pink tide of fluffiness and can absolutely bury an opponent the second that they get toughness broken. It's just swarms of bunnies. And it amounts to quite a lot of damage due to her being an erudition character when you've got multiple targets, or a boss that has multiple targetable parts. There's a lot of damage.
It's a lot of bunnies.
Oh, there's a teleport
Yeah.
point back there on the other island if you don't want to have to ride the Wave Riders out here again, Fern.
Which I do not.
Make it across the water,
Yeah.
though.
She synergizes almost comically well with Firefly, being that, number one, she shares an element, and Firefly has element install. She has extra attacks that trigger on characters losing health below a certain level, and Firefly routinely loses health below a certain level, and does so at a pace that more or less matches Ling Sha's cooldown on her proc. And they're both break specialists. Like, it's just a team that meshes really, really well together. She works all right in a follow-up team. She is definitely not premium. She works tolerable good, to the point where I would put her in the follow-up team if all other things are equal and there are no quantum weaknesses on the opposing side. If there's a quantum weakness, I might prefer Fushuan, but all other things being equal, she's an okay choice for a follow-up. But if I'm fielding a break team, or even possibly the Acheron team, because she applies debuffs as well, I would probably not favor her very strongly for follow-up. Like, if it's a single team challenge and I'm running follow-up, I would definitely put her in the follow-up team where if weaknesses don't contraindicate. But that's about the only situation. But and that's like basically a product of me not having a good candidate for a follow-up team, and she's like the best of a mediocre bunch. She does the job okay, because due to her bunnies, she has more attacks than average for an abundance character. But generally speaking, anybody will benefit from Robin, but single targeters benefit the most. And she's not a single targeter, so yeah, it's basically a mixed bag as far as follow-up goes. But I would describe that rather as her being very flexible, and follow-up as a weaker team for her, rather than she doesn't work in follow-up.
Yeah, the bunnies will count as follow-up attacks for the purposes of the other summon that's important, which would be Numby. If you follow up a team, have Numby.
Yeah, like I run follow-up, but I run it with Fei Xiao March 7th, which I find kind of charming, because it looks in practice a lot like Fei Xiao's doing like all of her sort of martial mastery type stuff, and you've got March 7th who's basically trying to imitate her, because they're both dual sword wielders. Although Fei Xiao uses a battle axe as well. So yeah, I find it sort of cute in a way that you've got March 7th who's trying to pretend like she's Fei Xiao.
I just know every time I borrow your Fei Xiao, ever since you put her up, when she starts the follow-up attack on any farming stage, her and Numby don't let the enemy get any more. There is no need for auto. They are just going to win before you have the chance to input anything, because it will follow up between waves.
Oh, well, that was...
I haven't tried
Charming little
borrowing your
side, by the
Numby,
way.
so
Just found a guy in the cage up here, and you can let him out, or you can continue to poke him through the bars.
Oh yeah, I forget what his side quest is all. I think it ends in a really anticlimactic, silly way.
Well, I just let him out, and now he's just standing there, so I probably can't take his quest right now.
Yeah, I'll happily take the
Sorry.
credits if you decide to take Numby for a walk.
but yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what necessarily Numby does, but I do have Fei Xiao, so the two probably work quite well together since they're pretty premium.
It's not hard. Have Topaz shoot something, and then throw follow-up attacks at the thing that you marked. Or actually, have Topaz throw Numby at something, and then whatever she threw Numby at, do follow-up attacks at it, and Numby will do his Numby thing. It's kind of automatic. It just happens.
But yeah, this is we're going into the last week for the current cycle of the current Memory of Chaos. I managed to clear that this week with full stars, which is good. I can only do that sometimes. It all depends on how strongly my teams are indicated for. But this one was not as overtly favouring specific combos as some of their ones previous have been. Like, it does still favour certain ones, but it wasn't to an absurd degree like we've seen in the past. So I was able to clutch together some teams that will do it. It wasn't an impressive clear, but then I've never had impressive clears because impressive clears depend on having good gear, and I don't have good gear.
I think
I just can't seem to roll any. But
if it's the mode I'm thinking of, I think post Numby I managed to get 27 to 29 stars on it.
yeah, most people who have got a reasonably mature account can quite comfortably get to 30. If you are if you're max Trailblaze level, you should be able to get to 33 without much effort. It's that last 3 that are a real bugger to get, because that's the sort of the difficulty level at which the enemy is put slightly outside of the height of your scaling. So it's just a little bit harder than anything else. But yeah, so I also did this this cycle's boss one. What's it called? Apocalyptic Chaos, and I max-starred that one as well. It was somewhat easier than the previous ones, largely because I feel like the difference between level 3 and level 4 fights is a little bit smaller. It's just pretty much just a matter of HP. The extra mechanics in this case don't seem to change the mix up very much compared to previously, where it can change the fight entirely. And also, there's a certain amount of luck involved because 10 Stone Hearts Aventurine is the boss for this cycle in the first half, and Aventurine is a nuisance to deal with in Apocalyptic Chaos, and the main reason for that is you can get badly shreked for bad reasons. Like actually, the Apocalyptic Chaos version of him isn't too bad. He's the least bad of them. The worst version is Memory of Chaos. Memory of Chaos Aventurine is bad.
Yeah,
bad news. Bad news bears.
I did many attempts to get stars on the second to last node, and the dice I think were consistent for the entirety of the fight for every rotation.
Yeah, the Memory of Chaos version of him, on the other hand, is really bad because if you there are almost no team compositions where everybody has AoE. That almost doesn't exist. You can still do it, but it's not very common. As such, there is going to be at least one character on your team who is likely to lose dice games against the boss, because you only get, under normal circumstances, one shot. And what that means is that all it takes for Aventurine to decide to attack a character too many times, and your run is scuffed because you can't take any knockdowns in order to 3-star a fight.
Yeah.
So
the real bad part
can
with his
get screwed
RNG
by
is who he
RNG.
hit. Yeah, the real bad part with his RNG, even without the dice, is whoever he decides to throw his poker chip at, that's going to reduce their energy.
Yeah, you can get badly screwed with that, and there are multiple ways it can screw with you badly like that. It's and it can be a case of, oh well, you were trying to line up a combo, but now everybody is a little bit below energy, and what are you going to do? It can be, oh well, I'm just going to chuck all of these at Robin, so you're going to end up having your song drop off, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Or it can be, you are about to nuke me because I was about to go into weakness break, but now you can't, because I've just nailed somebody multiple times. That's the thing with bounce. Bounce can screw you multiple different ways, no matter what your strategy is, if you get unlucky. But yeah, so Aventurine has always been my least favorite boss to fight. He's always a huge pain in the butt. He's not dull, but he is frustrating because you don't feel like it's very easy to come out of a fight with Aventurine that didn't go well and feel like you didn't do anything wrong, and that the game just decided that you were going to lose this one. It's just a lot like that. I mean, it fits in a sense because his entire shtick is the gambler aesthetic. Everything is about luck. Like, I've had fights against Aventurine where things went extremely poorly for Aventurine, and nothing went his way, and I absolutely teabagged it. That happens as well. It's just that you don't see it as often because you won't have to repeat the fight if that happens. So what sticks in your mind about Aventurine is all the times that he unfairly screws you. But yeah. On the other hand, Fantilia was comically easy. It provided that you've got the coverage and the consistency. Like, consistency is what it takes to bring down Fantilia in Apocalyptic Shadow. You need to be able to very workmanlike keep the buffs rolling in, keep just ladling on the damage a bit at a time. Don't get distracted by trying to kill Fantilia directly. Just keep dealing with the lotuses. If you keep dealing with the lotuses, Fantilia will go down.
Yeah, it's
Worrying
balancing.
about her herself is a mistake.
It's balancing how many of the damage up lotuses you need, how quickly, and how much resources to dump into getting those. That's going to decide everything in that one. Seems
Because I run Firefly, I just basically try and nuke the damaged lotuses up front and then put them all into Firefly's burst window. That's usually the way that I go. But yeah, the main thing is to not get snookered by thinking that you should be changing targets. Just don't. In fact, any situation where you've got the opportunity to focus fire or changing targets, focus fire is better.
It is
You need to reduce the number of targets on the field ASAP.
Yeah, this caused a issue in this fight with me because this is one situation where Numby can almost be more of a pain than help, because you have to have Topaz. If the target doesn't die, Topaz has to manually move the mark if a mark's already on field, and Fantelia's big fat booty is going to always be present on field, so that when the Lotus dies, she can eat the replacement Numby mark that goes out automatically, and you have to wait for Topaz's turn to come back to move the mark.
Yeah, I had a certain amount of difficulty with that because in my fight against Aventurine, because Fei Xiao and March 7th are my follow-uppers that I was using in that fight, and their overflows always go, if they kill something, then they overflow onto another target. But that other target is, I don't know how the smart targeting decides who to send it to, but it's often somebody unfortunate. And for me, all the overflows typically went onto that one dice on the field that has too much health to kill. You know, the one.
The 75 one, or yeah, that one.
Yeah. The overflows would always fall into that.
And when it has the buff up, then has no weaknesses. Yeah, that one. That asshole.
Yeah. That one, yeah. All the overflows, they all went there. So I was wasting a lot of damage in that fight. But yeah, my output against my intended target was high enough that it worked out. But yeah. At any rate, so Apocalyptic Shadow was gotten through without too much fuss. I just have to do Pure Fiction, which is my least favorite because everything always seems to go wrong.
I don't think we can get out of here, Fern.
Characters, but it doesn't seem to work very well for me for some reason. Why are you down there?
Yeah.
Fern went up to the wormhole, and so I followed him. You were on a tear, so I didn't want to interrupt you. And we wound up fighting the thing down here for a while.
I did that when I first came to Inazuma.
You're like, oh, a shiny. I'm going to touch it.
Yeah, that was exactly what I did. And yeah, I ended up in the same position. I ended up fighting that boss too. But yeah. Yeah, so that's that. I'm back in Jade Hoarding mode. My next priority is likely to be what I presume will be Tingyun 2.0, who I am presuming, based on a combination of sort of like intuition and game logic, is probably going to be a break support. Oh my.
Nope,
It's
treasure
respawned.
chest.
And I'm still down here.
Oh, I'll come save you.
No, I'm not fighting it. Yeah, I've not moved close enough to trigger it. I'm just gonna leave.
Okay.
Uh,
That respawned really quick, that one.
I remember how long I spent in this room trying to see if there were other places to go, and there's not really.
Yeah, you can't leave unless you've done the quests beforehand to open the whole things. Faraway Rider's still on the coast.
So I'm going to start conserving my resources again in the short term, or at least that's my good intentions. I may end up pulling on Rappa anyway, depending on what her kid is like. All I know about her is that she's imaginary erudition break. That's pretty much all that's been revealed. So I don't know how good she'll be. I don't have I've got like the old school classics for pure fiction. Like I've got Herta and Himiko, you know, the old classics from 1.0 who perform well in pure fiction. But if I split them up, well, then it tends not to go as smoothly. I don't really have a strong second team for pure fiction. I always end up trying to use Acheron, which has mixed results because if you can't seem to get the debuffs to stick, well, it just doesn't really work for you.
Yeah.
The whole pace of debuffs thing is sort of the key with Acheron.
I've actually had a lot of success so far with using Topaz or using Numby to sub in on the Acheron team because proof of debt counts and reapplies itself.
But Rappa's kit seems to be based on the trivial amount that has been revealed about her so far from the drip marketing. It seems to be that basically Jade is to follow up as Rappa is to break. She's basically to give the break team a way of doing pure fiction. I have used Firefly in pure fiction with some success before because she's a 3-target splash. But if you aren't able to land the peripherals on weaknesses, it starts to get messy and slow because Firefly does no damage until the target is broken. So if your toughness damage is enough to reduce 90% of the target's toughness, you just wasted a turn. So yeah, it's not really that effective because you can't hit enough targets. But Rappa seems like she's purpose built to give Break a method of participating in pure fiction without so much clutch, much in the way that Jade is supposed to do the same for follow up, where, you know, because again, Himiko is basically built for breaking. Her follow up attack, her whatchamacallit, her skill is blast. So again, you've got the 3-target problem, and her follow up is all, but it's triggered by 3 breaks. So she, when taken in isolation, advances through pure fiction quite slowly. She needs help of a very efficient breaker in order to be effective. And there are various ways of doing that work. Like I've had some success putting her in a follow-up team along with other characters like Faciao and March 7th to basically drive the breaking engine, since they are better at focus firing things. So you can get the breaks faster using the follow-up attacks. But it's got mixed effects, and Rappa seems like she's designed to solve that issue to some extent by being a break specialist in that archetype.
Fern, remember this spot. You will need to remember it later.
Okay.
It is
the other.
The side quest is, well, you'll lose it. Okay, continue.
The other character that is almost certainly going to be coming out either in the last patch before the new version number ticks over, or the very beginning of the new version number, is probably going to be Sunday. And the reason for believing this, really, other than the fact that it seems kind of logical, is the fact that there is one Nendroid figure for Honka Star Rail characters that is not for a playable character, and it's Sunday. That was announced at the new figure announcements.
Okay.
Because they have these expos periodically, right? They usually show up in my Twitter feed. All of the the unpainted grey versions of the prototypes for the new figures for each of the major figure lines, at like the Tokyo Toy shows and that sort of thing. And there are a whole bunch of Star Rail characters this time, and the only one of them that has an android but no playable character is Sunday. So Sunday is probably going to be quite short distance down the line if they've commissioned a character figure for him.
Yep.
So I think that given that he's he's nominally a devotee of Harmony, he's going to be a Harmony support. And if he's this late in his cycle, then he's probably going to be like the Ruan Mei of the cycle. So Ruan Mei was a really powerful utility knife Waver Velvet character when she came out, but nobody really knew what she was for because of her bizarre focus on increasing damage done to break bars. And then the break archetype happened, and she became the by far premier support for that. So if Sunday comes out as a Harmony support very, very late in the 2.x cycle, I'm expecting that whichever the new meta that they're pushing for the first half of the next version number will be, Sunday will probably be the premium support for that. That said, he has a penis.
Yeah.
And I think that he's not going to be a break support, number one, because Ruan Mei did that last cycle, and number two, because I think that Hoyo will probably want people to be able to play Hypercarry with Sunday and Robin in the same team, just for thematic reasons. But yeah. Anyway, so we're still waiting on more drip marketing from Star Rail as we exit the current version number. I think that Rappa's patch will probably be the last one, but we can't be sure about that. And then we'll be moving to the new region, probably, based on the sort of the pace of things. ZZZ. One word. Cheesetopia.
Cheesetopia.
I don't think that's a real word, but for
It should be.
our purposes, we will regard Cheesetopia as a word. I don't know if it deserves to be regarded as a word, but it is certainly very, very... It's a bizarre yet entertaining side quest that they have introduced as the coda to the primary story for the current version. So, basically, when the dust settles and the Sons of Caledon decide that they're going to long-term set up shop in the area where the story takes place, they decide to embark on a revitalization program of sorts, and key to this process is the revitalization of the diner that is sort of central to the little community there in the Outer Rim, called Cheesetopia. And so they basically Shanghai the main character, the point of view character, into being the interim manager during the revitalization project for this diner, Cheesetopia. So basically, you play a whole bunch of little mini games and things. You do a bunch of various quests for silly reasons, for silly people, and basically the absurdity of the whole thing and the dialogue accompanying it is the bright point. It's certainly an entertaining little test. It's certainly an entertaining little quest. Well, you don't have to play Belle as liking Cheesetopia. You could choose to play it rather where she is really reluctant and doesn't want to be involved at the start, but then eventually gets Stockholm Syndrome.
Sounds more like Wise, but yeah.
I do like when
they give you the options like that.
It certainly seems to be in character for Belle to become altogether too hype about it. But I have to say, as the drafted in impromptu manager of a business enterprise, Belle is significantly more competent than Stell is.
Well, Stell wasn't so much drafted in as she drafted herself.
Well, she proclaimed that she was now in charge, and for some reason, people decided to humor her.
just go with it. She won't shut up otherwise.
That is the single best quest in Star Rail, right after Pinaconi. So it's something to look forward to, Fern. It is just a random. This is a whopper flower, by the way, because I can't pick.
Ah, okay, coming.
But yeah, it's something to look forward to.
I have to say, I did not at all expect to see Ching Che, but she sure does show up.
Well, the Midget Players Society, or whatever the cult was.
I was going through Lingsha's voice lines in the menu, and there's a voice line that says that it's basically most of her voice lines are complaining about what a nuisance it is managing all of her staff and how busy she always is and doesn't have any time to relax. But there's this one line in there that's like her sole joy in life is teasing Ching Che. She has lines for a lot of the Luofu characters. Like her line for Fushuan is basically to complain essentially that Fushuan keeps coming to her claiming that she needs energy drinks for her health, and that she needs them prescribed.
Coming to her for amphetamines in drink form.
Well, no, she specifies sugar.
Let's see.
She says that she needs extremely sugary drinks in order to work. It's needed for her health.
So declares she.
Yes.
There should be a queue list. There it is.
ZZZ is also doing an event of which I have very mixed feelings, which is another arcade game event. I guess this must be their way of incubating new devs or something, or giving people a break from major projects, because they keep doing this. But this one is, I'm told, sort of a knockoff of Vampire Survivors.
It literally is Vampire Survivors.
I've never played Vampire Survivors. I've only played Holocure, and Holocure is better. But
Holocure is better.
But I found it extremely frustrating early on, and the reason I found it extremely frustrating early on is that it doesn't have a game logic to it at the start, because the character that, unlike my experience with Holocure, where every character has things that are particular to that character that make it favor playing in certain ways rather than other ways, the character that you start with in the ZZZ minigame is just a health bar. They don't really do anything.
Okay.
The conceit that you don't attack things is interesting. I will grant it that. Rather than attacking things and collecting items to attack things more as your primary method, you hire lackeys and you throw the lackeys at things. The lackeys will fight autonomously, but you can headbutt them and make them fly into people. This is an interesting way of doing it. And that's the part about it that I will applaud as imaginative relative to Vampire Survivors. But it was extremely obnoxious that they put such valuable rewards behind being able to get by with a character that doesn't do anything, meaning that there's no snowball strategy for that character. You unlock, there's heaps of characters, like way more than I expected. But if you don't get lucky with what the RNG gives you to buy from the shop, unlocking more characters will be extremely difficult. And until you unlock more characters, the game is actually extremely difficult because, like I said, there's no scaling factor to snowball with. The characters you do unlock do have scaling factors that you can snowball with. So once you've got another character, you can start to make reasonable progress because there will be some approach that is favored. Whereas with the baseline character that you start with, there is no approach that is favored. Everything is just, it just exists in isolation with no synergy to anything. So that was very frustrating. But I got through it in the end. I can't imagine spending much time playing it. It's got enough depth to it that if I was feeling really idle and I didn't have something like Holocure to play instead, then I could see myself spending more time with it. I just don't see myself doing that in the real world. Like, it's
Speaking
not...
of, there should be the next HoloCure update coming sometime this month.
HoloLive has had such a rough year. My goodness. But
Yeah.
I am still having trouble finding a really good latching point with ZZZ, simply because I feel like the design seems to spend a lot of time tripping over its own feet for some reason, and relearning lessons that have been learned by other Hoyo games for like the third time.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's very odd. Like, I have no problems with doing easy runs or challenging runs of Simulated Universe and Star Rail. I know what I'm getting in for, and I know roughly where I'm trying to get. And, you know, as you start to crank the difficulty up in Simulated Universe, the RNG will favor you less and less and less, and you're going to have to be more and more careful with your approach. But by and large, you can zip through there pretty quickly, put together a reasonable composition, and use it for farming. In ZZZ, the Hollow Zero does the opposite to what I feel like is the way you should do it. Like, when you're doing a format like Simulated Universe, kind of what you want to do is you want to counterbalance the challenge with the sort of the retarded overpowerness that you can accomplish in that sort of roguelite format, right? Where you pick up heaps of blessings and they synergize with each other, and eventually you're doing like 5 million damage per hit or whatever. And the only reason that that's not retarded is that the opponents can be made, you know, comparatively tough. But you still feel powerful, and you'll feel like you're making progress when you romper stomp them, right? In the case of Hollow Zero, they spend way more time debuffing you than buffing you. And most of the challenge comes from accidentally tripping over something that really, really sucks. Like having an extra cooldown added to your dodge button, which makes combat a huge burden and totally not fun.
Ugh,
Because you've got all this muscle memory built up for the particular dodge cadence required for certain enemies, and it just doesn't work anymore. The skills that you've been honing all this time now worthless to you. Like, this is not how you do it. This is not the
No.
right way. I'm sorry, but this is the way they've chosen to do it in ZZZ, which just makes me hate the whole process. I resentfully do it because they've locked heaps of rewards behind it. But yeah, I don't particularly appreciate it. And the other thing that, of course, puts a huge burden on it is it still feels to me like the amount of resources required to build a character is a bit nuts. And it seems like the devs must be dimly aware of this, because I feel like they are constantly scaling up the rewards you get from events that are associated with building a character up.
Oh yeah.
Like the Vampire Survivors thing that I just mentioned rewards a whole pile of materials for physical and fire characters that would otherwise take you like hundreds of energy to farm up.
Yeah. Like, yeah, we're still like 2 weeks out from Bernice. I've been pre-farming her ever since I got through the story. Realized I was going to pull for her.
I'm not pre-farming Bernice. I probably will try and pull Bernice, but the main reason I'm trying to pull Bernice is because I want more copies of Lucy, who I am building, because I just like her.
Yeah, I want my little pyromaniac because I liked her in the story mostly, but also because she'll work well with Shane. Have the anomaly meme team.
Yeah, I've got C2 Grace, so she would definitely work well with Grace as well. But yeah, I'm gonna pull for her. But my current priority is to build up Lucy, because I need more supports and I need more Caledon characters.
Yeah.
Basically, because if I pull Bernice, I'll want to use her with Grace, and I will usually support Grace with Anby. But if for a team with
yeah, you can go full anomaly with that if you throw Caesar in instead.
Yeah, I could do that. That's one option, but I would like the other option as well of having Caesar supported by say Nicole and Lucy as a pseudo hyper carry, because Caesar's just fun to play on field. She's not going to get fast clears ever, but she gets incredibly safe clears.
Well, that's what your C2 Grace with Bernice helping is for. Optim disorders all day long.
Yeah, well, I mean that's why I say that I would probably separate Bernice and Caesar, because I don't really want Caesar on the anomaly team. I want Caesar to be sort of the anchor for the weaker team because she makes the game so safe. So if the condition is don't die, Caesar's going to be a much better anchor for that team.
Yeah. I just
That's the logic I'm currently thinking of anyway.
I blame Serathis for solidifying it, but Bernice was on the pull list when her first reaction to a furry was burned to the ground.
But that's her first reaction to everything.
Yeah, but I'll take it.
She's not the most stable individual, but yeah. I'm still sort of wrestling with the logic that they are doing with these characters moving forward, though. Like Yanagi and Lighter. Like, what are they doing with the roster? I don't understand.
It depends on what the enemy list is going to be like for every cycle and what new enemies they have.
Well, the thing is that the cycle will follow the characters. It's not the other way around.
Yeah, so we'll have. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I guess the only advantage I can see is that it means that there are non-limited options to deal with the promotional period for limited characters. So let's say you just have no intention of pulling Yanagi or Lighter, which is entirely likely because a lot of people won't.
Yeah, it's
That means that people will already have the elements to deal with those things because there are non-limited versions, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like you've got your colladas and your NBs to fill the stun roll and the fire roll, and you've got lightning anomaly in Grace, and it seems like everybody has Grace at this point. So it just seems like they are. It seems from a cynical point of view like directly power creeping the entire 1.0 cast for no reason. But that seems like a little bit too on the nose to be true, and also like it's a bad commercial decision, because there are a lot of people who will simply, like, I've seen there are a lot of people simply breathing a sigh of relief. Oh, I don't need to spend any resources this cycle.
Yeah.
Because I already have lightning anomaly and fire stun.
Yeah. It's because we're so early in the game, a lot of people are pulling on pretty much every banner they can that I would imagine, try and build a roster. So a lot of people are going to be tapped.
If I was them, I would be trying to wring money out of people. I wouldn't be trying to give them a break week so they don't have to spend money next time. Like, all of the people who don't have, like, Zhu Wan are kicking themselves because they can't do Ether. And Zhuan's just an Ether beat stick, right?
It's just an Ether damage hose. That's all she does.
Very, very easy to do a variant on Ether that won't overlap with her in playstyle. Like, why not do an Ether anomaly instead of another lightning anomaly? If they'd done an Ether anomaly, then everybody who wanted to run anomaly and didn't have their second anomaly or didn't manage to pull Bernice would be pulling for that character. If you have all the people who need anomaly damage but just don't have Zhu1 or an equivalent, because there is no equivalent for that fight, they'll all be pulling on it. Like, that seems like the way you would want to go, for instance, as an example of how you move forward.
Maybe this is
people to want to pull.
Maybe this is the secret plan, right? They're trying to keep Nicole as relevant as possible so they can continue to use her for the marketing.
I think that Nicole will continue to be relevant simply because everybody has Nicole. And she's a really good support with good crowd control. Like, she's like everybody having access to Venti sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to help. I don't know why there are no Ether damage options, but we've been over that. That's
well, there being no Ether damage options is not the complaint here. The complaint here is that they are perfectly aligning their new releases behind existing characters, which is really bizarre.
Yeah, the only logic I can think for it is that they intend to keep enemy weaknesses roughly the same as what they are now, in terms of how they splash out. So it's just not necessary to add the additional elements yet to backfill, but
we know from the reality that people are absolutely bleeding at the eyeballs for ether damage. Like they really, really, really want it.
Yeah, because because every single thing that's hollowified is weakness to ether.
So yeah, it seems like a strange strategy, but it might be one of those things that their sort of their release timeline has so much more detail and goes so much further than we could possibly foresee that if you had a bigger picture, it might make sense in total.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that like if you look at the classical Ho-Yo pattern, their normal approach is to power creep the 4 stars. Like they will line characters up behind the 4 stars because the 4 stars are the test bed for how interested are people in a character of this archetype. So
in Genshin, it seems to be there is the Power 5 from Mondstadt and the other 4 stars that were never really relevant, aside from maybe 5 minutes, and they were power crept immediately. Power 5 plus Barbara.
I'll call it into it there because we are going to be pressed for time with the Fern.
Yep.
Yes.
Right. So I will just take the baton and run, and jump off with the very little bit of Ho-Yo that I've done this week, which was hold on the Topaz Banner, as I've alluded to many times.
Yes, you have the Numbies.
Yep. So how soon I got Numby was going to determine my future choices quite a bit in Star Rail, and how soon I got the light cone afterwards, because there is a significant difference in the utility Topaz can have and what she can be used in, whether or not she has that stupid light cone. Also, hunt light cones seem to be at a premium, so it's kind of important to get it. So I had to get both, and I had stockpiled quite a bit of Jade and had gotten to something like 35 pity by just blowing my tickets on the phase out banner just to see what happened. And let's see, I got the chart. Right.
No, serious when the chart comes out.
Right. So I started at 35-ish pity and 32,000 Jade. Topaz came at hard pity when I won the 50-50. So I had 22,000 Jade. I did a 10 pull on Light Code banner and immediately got Jeopard's Light Cone. So pity good. Lost the 50-50, but it happened so fast, it actually helped me out.
How good is Jeopard's Light Cone
Awful.
for him anyway? Oh.
Well, for him, probably good. But it's Preservation Light Cone, and I have no Preservation characters. So, for me, awful.
Yep.
She's currently Hunt right now. She's the one that got replaced on the follow-up team. So, pulled to 14...
Even March Preservation does follow up.
Does. But yeah, we got 14,000 Jade left after that. And I made about 600 more throughout the week from logins and miscellaneous crap. I had thoroughly pre-farmed Topaz ahead of time in the weeks before because I knew I was going all in for her. Took every single resource I had. But while the traces are a couple levels higher now, this is what it was on day 1. I'll post it in live show chat when I got her done. So I just took print screens and mushed them together in paint of all her stats and the gear that I had ready for her. Now, I lucked out with picking Topaz, or with a follow-up character that's on the attack end specifically, because attackers for the follow-up team have a huge benefit in that their set comes from the chest you just opened on Penacony. So you've got pieces. They may not be optimal pieces, but you can make something work with what you got, and it's not going to take very much farming to backfill. And 1 or 2, I think I crafted the orb. No, I got the orb to drop during the double drop event. The orb did not roll as bad as the orb could. It rolled 3 rolls into flat stats, but at least it got some crit rate on there. For an orb that I'll take it. And got her over, the big thing is I got her over 145 speed. And she has unfortunately fallen into the position that Nabia does. She has almost 150% crit damage before buffs. before her light cone triggers and before the party buffs go off.
Is there any benefit to going over 100% crit?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, crit. That's crit
No.
rate. No.
Yeah.
This is crit damage. That's the problem.
Ah.
That's the problem. Her crit rate is 50%.
Yeah, my face shell is overcapped on crit rate because before combat she's got like 94% crit rate. Because I kept rolling crit rate and no crit damage on everything. So she's got crit rate for days. Every hit that my face shell does is a crit. The problem is that they will hit like a wet noodle.
Yeah. When my Numby crits, oh boy, does he do damage. Half the time. So you're gambling a little bit with him, but if you take Numby out for a walk and he's feeling critty that day, you're just gonna watch things melt. And the bit of testing I've done with her, she was a good investment for the account and has moved the power level needle up quite significantly. The follow up team is now mostly operational. It functions if I take it as a solo team without any supports just fine. Well, slots in there real nicely, makes it real comfy to keep Robin's song going with Mr. Tail, and keeps everybody alive with the talent, and it's all good in the hood. Problem is when we get two teams, and somebody's got to get the Bailu. Whichever team gets the Bailu is going to be riding the struggle bus.
I don't know what the solution to that is, but it's looking more and more like Aventurine.
I don't think I got a choice. I've got to get the penis.
He is a really good character. He's just got that congenital disability of being male.
Yeah, he just... I don't have a choice, I don't think, because I've got to be able to keep two teams alive for all of the content in Star Rail that gives cycling Prima Gems, pretty much, with very few exceptions. And right now, one of them is stuck with Bailu, and Bailu can't cut the mustard. And I could get Linkshot, I guess. It was tempting because she doesn't have a penis. But the fact of the matter is, I already have a healer, and Wowo does the job just fine.
Yeah, the current paradigm is that it's sort of like the old school logic in regard to disc priests, in that the EHP from shields is just worth infinitely more than restoring health when it's done.
Yeah, this is doubly so for Adventurine, and the reason Adventurine and Topaz are best buddies, besides both being in the IPC, is the way Topaz works. At the start of the fight, an enemy will be marked by Numby. You can change the mark by picking a different target and using her skill, but that's all her skill does, is it just makes Numby do an attack, and Numby moves the mark to that target. If Topaz just shoots it with a basic attack, you get a skill point back, so she goes skill point positive, number one. And number two, it counts as a follow-up attack, so Numby's turn will advance. The way Numby turn advances is a follow-up attack hits the target that is marked by Topaz. Whoever she puts the Numby mark on, if any follow-up attack bops that target, Numby will move up on the turn order, and he gets action advance something like 60 units every time. It's a ridiculous amount. 2 follow-up attacks pretty much guarantees he's going next. And the reason Adventurine is so good for that team is because Adventurine hits the entire enemy team with a follow-up attack when his talent procs. So no matter who has the stupid mark from Topaz, Numby's going to get turn advanced every single time that it goes off. And the whole team revolves around abusing Robin's song that buffs the crap out of everything and does the bonus bop, with just the raw number of hits that Numby can do to abuse Robin and ratio. And if you line up the ratio with the Numby mark, you're just going to wombo combo pretty much any boss.
Eggs and chalk everywhere.
Yeah, that boss is dead. If it's in a position to take damage and not protected by some special effect, that boss is dead.
Pigs and chalk.
Yeah. The problem is, you need Adventurine to do that. If you don't have Adventurine, you can still make the team work. It's just not going to work anywhere nearly as well, because if the mark winds up on the wrong target, it can be hard to get Numby going. once Numby gets going and is attached to the right target, he's going to murder everything.
It'll be stunk.
Yeah, it stonks for days. The problem is
Yes.
getting the Numby engine going. And adventuring is the catch-all solution to that, in addition to probably being the best shielder in the game. Unfortunately, he has a penis. I do not see a way...
He is not probably the best shielder in the game. He is the best tank in the game, bar none.
Yeah.
Like, there are corner cases which prevent him from working to the same sort of universality as Fushuan. Like, Fushuan is... Like, if Fushuan gets 80 out of 100 for every single team, Aventurine gets sort of like 99 out of 100 for 75% of teams, and about a 75 for the other teams. Like, it's like that.
Yeah. So, people are speculating Adventuring will get rerun soon. We don't have any official announcements on that.
Extremely likely. It seems extremely likely because they've been pushing follow-up so hard, and he is like the numero uno sustain for follow-up teams.
Yeah, especially if you're running Topaz, because you just need follow-up attacks to hit. And him, in addition to providing that team the survivability it desperately needs, he will do follow-up attacks on Numby's target, regardless of who that target is. It's everybody with his follow-up attack. And his follow-up attack goes off a lot if the enemy gets a lot of turns, which means Numby is going to keep on keeping on. And the more Numby's keeping on, the more you can abuse the Robin song that she's sitting over there singing, which means Robin generates more energy to song again. And it's a cycle that feeds on itself. This is the rat team and...
To the moon.
Yeah, to the moon.
To the moon.
Yeah, the stonks just go to the moon. But you need Adventuring. He's the only survivability character that can really feed into that loop. Linksha's bunnies do count as a follow-up and do hit everything, but she does not do it at the rate Adventuring does.
No, it's because if you're a abundance healer, overheal is a thing. Like, Adventuring shields all stack. You can just keep building those shields up every time you want, or you've got a chance, and that's how he is so effective as a tank.
Yeah, and
healing does you no good if you're full. So the design of the Linksha bunnies is that they come out at a sort of like a moderated pace, so that there's always some healing to do, because you've got to take some damage in between in order for that healing to be valuable. So it's a ongoing, consistent thing that will keep healing you no matter what else you are doing, provided you're maintaining your buffs. It'll just keep ticking over in its own time, but it's not constructed for damage output. Damage output is really good from it in a break team, and only in a break team, but it's not for that. It's not for generating lots of hits.
Yeah, and furthermore, Linksha, while is not as skill point positive as Adventuring is, especially for the follow-up team, Ratio is very skill point positive for the follow-up team. You might have to throw the shield up once, maybe, per fight, if you really screw something up. But
it depends on how long the fight is. If it's like a 3-phase boss fight or something,
yeah, but
you might need to be a bit more judicious, like because of nukes and that sort of thing.
But otherwise, he doesn't have to push that skill button. And Ratio needs a skill used every single turn. If you auto attack with Ratio, you screwed something up.
He's a classic carry in that way. That you just got to keep hitting the skill button. Fei Xiao's the same. Like, if you use Fei Xiao's regular attack, it's because you made a mistake.
Yeah. Topaz is pretty much entirely positive on a single target. On multi-targets where you have to move the mark around, Topaz can go still positive but closer to neutral. So having Adventuring to make sure that you've got the points to move Numby around and keep Ratio skill rolling is kind of important, because Robin is point neutral. She will use one to pop her skill, and then ideally she doesn't stop singing.
Right. Well, don't forget that you've got a lot of FF material this week, and we've got a limited time schedule.
Right. So that's all the Hoyo I got. There's functionally no Genshin, and there's functionally no ZZZ to talk about. It's all been pre-farming Bernice and pre-farming Zelonin. Yeah.
Yeah. The next patch for Genshin should be coming out very, 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 very soon.
Yeah, I think it goes up in like 3.5-4 days, something like that. So we'll talk about that then. There'll be a lot to talk about for Genshin that week. So for now, moving on. I want to get to this topic very badly. and I have in fact been trying to push myself through this game, despite there being a few points I really wanted to take a break.
Again.
And it's because of Dawn Trail. I do not think my my forcing myself and pushing to go as hard as I did on this game over the past, since whatever date it came out. I took a 4-day break while I waited on a graphics card to get here. To up my rig a bit, but I was going well and true. It was pretty good on the game. Just taking a bit of break from the do Hoyo stuff before then. And I felt it was necessary for at least one of us to do this for this game, because we've complained a lot about Dawn Trail and the mistakes Dawn Trail made, and we're wondering how much of the devs' attention and focus went into 16, and whether that turned out to be a good product. Because you may notice going online before the PC release, it's got a bit of a resurgence now, but talk about 16 died real fast. It didn't have any sticking power with the general population. And while opinions were not bad, they were not outstanding either. And people seemed very confused about their thoughts about it. And I'm of a similar mind, but I put them down on paper to help me organize them a bit better. So this is going to be kind of a scattered mix of praise and criticism for 16. But before I get to any of that, with the specifics of what happened on my playthrough, I beat the story. I'm trying to blitz New Game Plus because of something I'll mention when we get to the specifics. The runtime of this game is around 50 hours, I'd say, for the main story, and side quests, and a solid 80 to 90% of that is cutscenes. It is a movie, and I mean, you know this
even
when
the
you're
things that aren't cutscenes look like cutscenes to me, from what I can see.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of cinematic cutscenes mid-fight too that had that runtime. They're cool the first time, but this is meant to be a one in. It's very weird. We'll get to that. Okay, so let's kick it off. First off, the game is complete. It is a feature-complete video game in that when you boot it up, you can play it start to finish, and there will not be anything in there that is just, okay, this ain't done.
It's kind of sad that needs to be an actual talking point.
Yes, and the game gets a lot of points for that.
We've been saying that for literally years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since Resi 8 came out, I've been complaining that that's a praise I have to give a game, but I still got to give it. The game is feature complete when it comes out. There are some obvious cuts to the game that you will notice while going through, but at no point does the game feel incomplete. Like, you will very clearly see where they had planned to do stuff, or an idea probably had more going for it at one point and it got trimmed down. But nothing is presented as half-baked or unfinished. So, that's a huge thing in its favor. This, especially for the MSQ, you can tell there was some pruning done, but the MSQ manages to keep its nose on and stay the course of telling a narrative the whole way through. Its themes can get a little lost, that we'll talk about shortly, and meander between about 3 or 4 different ones, but it overall will still tell you a coherent story start to finish, and everything's good in the hood. Okay, now let's talk about the setting. I'm not going to spoil specifics of the story. I am going to cover stuff that happens in the prologue and the early chapters, just to set up the world of Valisthea. Valisthea? I can't say it, whatever. So that you have an understanding of what they're trying to go for with the story of this game. First, you've got the world is a medieval fantasy setting. People liken it to Game of Thrones, but that doesn't feel right. I think that's just caused...
People who liken things to Game of Thrones do that because it's the only thing they know. Yeah.
It is definitely not Tolkien fantasy, but it is swords and monsters and adventure guilds. Well, not
it's
guilds.
Every high fantasy setting ever.
Yeah, with less emphasis on the high. Like, the magic here is very subdued outside of the dominance. So let's
Bro,
go.
I saw you transform into a demon.
Yeah, the dominants are
Yeah.
dominants. There are only 8 people in the world that fall under the
Who
category
could
of
pull their
dominant.
devil trigger?
Yeah, and they are so far above everybody else. Like the normal magic user that isn't a dominant can make water come out of a crystal or water come out of their hands to fill up a well over the course of an entire day. Or can do a small little blow dryer effect with their hands if they use wind. So to dry sheets. That's the tier of magic that the other bits of the population that are able to do magic can do. Only the dominants are able to do the big combat style wombo combo sorcery stuff that that you see Clive pulling off. So the world is set up with factions that have tense relations and are some of which are at war with each other. Between I forget all the faction names, they all have wacky fantasy names. But basically, you have the Eastern Continent, the Empire, the Duchy of Rosario, which is run by which is where Clive is from, and you have the Iron Men who live out at sea and in the north, and they hate icons. And then another faction, I'm totally brain farting on it. Oh, the Dalmatians, who are the desert people that live in the south.
Yeah. I keep calling them Dalmatians.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Dalmatians.
Dalmatians.
We're introduced immediately to the most of the dominants. In the opening cutscene, you get to see Benedicta, the one that's in charge of Garuda, making always sexy time with Titan, because this game loves its sexy time scenes, where it gets just close to on the edge of going on the way, like it does in an HBO special or something. And then
I think HBO broke down that barrier a while ago.
And then probably. And then cuts away at the last second. It drives me insane because this is like faux maturity in my book whenever I see it.
This is why people are liking it to Game of Thrones. Actually,
yeah, and this is a negative for presentation. Whenever it happens for me, I do not care about any of this stuff. I care about the actual world, the characters, and the story going on.
How will you know it's a mature story unless it has titillation in it?
Yeah,
that was kind of the criticism of Dragon Age back in the day.
Yeah, so that's obnoxious complaint about the presentation number 1. There's a few.
Yep.
And then we have the plights that are afflicting this world. The magic users I mentioned before, the ones that can barely fill up a well over the course of a day with water, or make a blow dryer, or light a furnace, etc., are treated as a slave class effectively. They're because humans are not meant to channel ether in this world. Doing so, unless you're a dominant, and even for dominants, it'll wear on them eventually. It just wears them down slower. Will literally calcify your body until you turn to rock and disintegrate overusing your magic. Yeah. It's so bearers don't, which are the magic people, are treated as little more than slave labor. In fact, they're lucky. Some of them are lucky to be treated as slave labor, and are used just to be conveniences for the non-bearer class and the upper class, effectively, if you can afford. This is plight number 1 that Clive has to deal with, as he initially thinks his powers come from being blessed by the Phoenix. He doesn't know that he's the dominant of Ifrit until quite a ways into the story, and thinks that his powers originate just from his brother Jonathan, who's the dominant of the Phoenix, imbuing him with some of that dominance power when they were younger, when he was appointed to be his shield and protector. So he has magic powers and therefore feels some sympathy with the bearers, because his, even before he gets he figures out he's Ifrit, people still think his power comes from a dominant, so he's treated differently, even though they don't think they know that Jonathan's the actual dominant of Phoenix. So he doesn't
figure, oh well, there must be some sort of bullshittery going on that they don't understand, so they just let it pass.
Yeah, they know a dominant is involved in his magic powers and in Rosaria specifically, so they don't bug him with it. But still, Clive feels a kinship with the bearers that are that are being used for their magic juice and their magic powers. So he treats them nice, but he doesn't, when he's young, do anything to really go out of their way to help them. The other plight that's going on with the world at large, aside from after the oppression of the bearers, is the blight. It is revealed very early on in the first act of the story that the mother crystals, there's one in each nation, are actually just, while you can mine them for crystals to cast magic, the same type of baby magic that the bearers can do without a bearer around, and the countries are mining them for these crystals to sell them and trade and provide conveniences to the world. These mother crystals are actually sucking the planet of all its aether, and that's bad juju. So you've got to find a way to shut them off. Yeah, they're not natural to the world.
Final Fantasy going back to the tried and true well there.
Yeah, so the crystals are not natural things to the world of Valisthea. They were placed there by somebody who will remain unnamed for now, and are sucking the land drive ether and turning slowly cancerifying parts of the surface that are spreading that make it so you can't grow anything on the soil there anymore. Magic can't be channeled there even by dominance. It turns into a gray waste, and it's bad for everything. Nothing can live there. So they call that the blight, and that's ongoing in the background. This is the plight where they drop the ball the biggest, I feel, because the game takes place, not counting the prologue time skip, where you skip from Clive being a kid to being an adult. There's an additional time skip of 5 years that happens after the first act. And you can still go to all the places that you went to before, some of which are right on the border of the blight, and the blight has not moved.
Oh, right, okay.
So it does a real good job of making you go, well, is it really that big a deal if it's moving that slow? So
5 years and it hasn't moved at all? Yeah, it's probably not that big a deal.
So there's not even any like story. There's no story events where it suddenly surges and takes over somewhere, or
I mean, they'll show you like a world map of look how it's growing in these other areas, but you don't see
in a totally abstract way.
Yeah, you don't see the blight itself do that. You see it on a map. You see the gray area expand in the cutscene, and you're like, okay,
It's
but
sort of like COVID.
Yeah.
Like you never actually see it having any effects. Everybody has to act like it's a huge problem.
yeah, like I can go to the blighted areas. I can run across one to get to the inciting incident area of the game from the beginning, but that area never grows and moves. And the only other significance of the blight is that Clive, when he eventually, because we'll go over how the story opens. In the opening, Clive is going to accompany his brother to Phoenix Gate to perform a ritual at this fort, where underneath the fort the Phoenix goes into this holy location and performs a rite to bless the troops that are about to go off to war. And Clive, as the dedicated shield of his brother and blessed by his brother's powers, is going with him. And they arrive at Phoenix Gate, and somebody has sold them out to the Empire, because somebody always sells the duchy or the good king or the good prince's units out to the Empire, and the Empire strikes in the middle of the night, murdering everybody. And Jonathan, when Papa dies, is so traumatized by this, he turns into the Phoenix for the first time, and can't quite keep himself under control for the first little bit he transforms. Normal for icons. Clive sees this and sees everybody dying, and also transforms. But the mental trauma on Clive is so hard, he doesn't realize that he's the one that turned into the second icon for many, many years. And this is portrayed in the story and in the characters from Clive's perspective fairly well, I think, the whole way through. It sounds really dumb.
There's no other witnesses to this?
No, they all literally get roasted.
Right.
Yeah. So they all get barbecued. I mean, Torgal survives. But and I guess
the dog?
Yeah, the dog survives to come back later, and I guess your Chimkin does, but neither of those things can talk. Although Torgal is super mutt and can understand humans way better than the dog should, but he cannot talk. And so after all that happens, Clive gets taken into custody by the Empire. And the Empire brand, which is where the term branded comes from, all the magic users in either their conscripted forces in the military, the ones that have slightly juicier magic like Clive does, or or just in general, the ones that work as slaves, the mark on their face that actually, if they try to remove it, will cause poison to seep into their skin and kill them, so that they can never take it off. And he gets stuck with this brand, which limits his ability to interact and talk with people in the outside world and isolates him until he encounters his childhood friend on the battlefield as the dominant of Shiva in his his first mission. And he immediately betrays the Empire and murders his entire squad and the squad of enemies they were fighting. And he's out of gas, about to be killed by the reinforcements, when Sid shows up and lightning zaps everybody and takes him back to the rebel hideout, where he's working to make the plight of the bearers better and find a way to stop the literal blight that's eaten the world. And so our game begins on this premise of we have to break the mother crystals, we have to make life not as terrible for the bearers, and we've got to stop this cycle of dominance being used as war machines that's literally destroying the planet. Okay, we can work with this. This is a good, solid foundation for a story with a lot of conflicts, a lot of factions. You can do something with this. And for the main story, it's mostly okay the whole way through. It misses the beat a few times and its pacing can get a little off, but overall it goes through with these themes in this story pretty well. If you discard the entirety of the side quests in the game, which are not nearly as well written and just serve as fetch quests, go here and talk to person, and go hear about how treating bearers and bad MK for the 800th time.
This is please tell me this isn't some heavy-handed metaphor about racism, because I'm so sick of that crap. In fact, I was sick of it when I was 10 years old.
You could maybe read it like that, but given that the bearers are treated more as objects for the utility they provide, that only they can provide, it feels a little different. You could read it that way, and I'm sure Twitter was all over that when it came out, but I didn't get the same type of feeling. But you still get sick of it by the middle of the game. In fact, you're sick of it before the middle of the game. I'm
not really a death of the author person, so I do actually care what the original intent in the writing was.
Yeah, I sit in a halfway house with death of the author and not. I'm very much so depends on the piece of media. But the problem is they just won't show up about this, and they show it to you way too much instead of focusing on things like that could be more interesting in the world, like how the mechanics of the magic work, how the mother crystals were actually constructed and formed. You eventually get some overarching general answers, but no details there that could have been expounded on. You learn about some of the cultures in these side quests if you go through with them, of the areas, but they all just are basically the same. Just vaguely sand people flavored people that don't like bearers. Vaguely European people that don't like bearers. Like, this is all we've got for these people. The peoples are not very interesting. Thankfully, this does not carry over for the side quests that have to do with the people in the hideaway, which are quite lengthy, and go into detail with your companions. Those are generally pretty good. They vary in quality, but none of them are a waste of your time. The side quests that don't reward any bonus mechanics to the game, or just focus on stuff from the region, however, I'm giving you the recommendation to skip them. You get enough of bearers and oppressed MK in the main story. You do not need it added to with side quests. And the main quest already overdoes it. So the reason that the main quest can get away with it a bit more is it starts putting personal stakes in for Clive. Clive is a very good protagonist in carrying this story because they're very good at tying personal Clive stakes to everything. Like, it's revealed immediately at the end of the first cutscene. It was his mom that betrayed his dad and the Duchy of Rosaria. So his mom needing to be stopped is one of the personal investments. Finding out what happened at Phoenix Gate and getting over the fact he thinks he killed Jonathan when he was in super Ifrit form. And this mysterious other fire icon wandering around when Jonathan's supposed to be dead. You know, the most telegraphed Jonathan's not really dead. of all time. But Clive's a good leader. Clive can hit things real good. Smart, he ain't.
Do you guys ever have difficulty when stories have a major character who has the same name as you?
Brian's don't usually show up, so
Right.
like there was one in one anime one time with Victorique was the name of the girl, but I can't remember the anime's name. He was the villain, but that's it. So yeah, it was it does a good job with Clive. Clive is further helped by his voice actor, especially. The English voice acting for this game is incredible the whole way through. It's done by I think the same hire and batch they use from that troop in the UK. And Clive's voice actor is Ben Starr, and he knocks it out of the park for every scene he's in. And none of the characters are bad. They all seem.
I saw an interview actually with Ben Starr the other day, and apparently they kept him in the dark, or tried to keep him in the dark about what game he was working on.
Yeah,
up until he saw the word like something like Sid and crystals mentioned on the same page.
Yeah,
it's kind of a giveaway if you've played a Final Fantasy before.
Yeah, he's apparently a big Final Fantasy fan, so he was motivated to give it his all.
In his words, he lost his shit.
Yeah, but yeah, he does a lot to bring Clive to life and make Clive likable. It takes a while for him to get over all his emotional hurts and hangups and really solidify as a character, but by the start of Act 3, he's mostly got his act together. And he starts to snark a little bit. And this becomes a common occurrence and really helps Clive feel more lively and like he's getting over what was hanging over him in the beginning. It's really good. I think Clive as a protagonist works out really well when taken at a whole. At the start, he's going to come off as a broody, angsty jerk. What?
We just accidentally that puzzled.
We were fighting a Fatui agent on top of a puzzle, and so we were hitting the blocks, and we accidentally solved it while we were fighting. So it was like, okay, fight over, let's solve the puzzle. The puzzle's already solved.
I see. So yeah, and that's all I'll say on Clive. Side characters, all of them that are named and recurring in the story are good. The big ones are Jonathan, Sid, Gav, and Jill. And there's a few other standouts. Lord Byron, your uncle. He's a treat, and that he is just a special kind of stupid, but he is very good with people, and very rich.
Wasn't the real world Lord Byron also kind of a character?
Yeah. This one is he's a trip. He is incredibly stupid, but he is so fun to be around. So whenever he doesn't get many scenes, but when he does, he steals the scene he's in. And he's a fun character and good. Most of the side characters that aren't part of the Hideaway crew of regulars at the Hideaway just don't hit very good. And I really think they should have just kept all the side quests focused on the Hideaway and kept them at a minimum and cut the runtime down by about 10 hours if they had to. It would have helped with a lot of the issues with side quest pacing, interrupting the story if you want to do everything. But that's a relatively minor gripe in the grand scheme of things, because next we have to talk about the music. Soken kills it with the boss themes, all of them pretty much.
How we do.
The remix for the 4th or 5th phase of the Titan fight, I forget how many phases he has, a lot, called Titan Lost. And the theme that goes with that is a remix of the Final Fantasy XIV Eden version of the fight, with a new arrangement woven in there to go with everything, but it still has that heavy metal sound to it. It sounds
like this time, I hope.
No, we Titan has this Titan has eaten all of the Wheaties when going into Titan mode, and is bigger than the Mountain Titan in Final Fantasy 14 in Phase 2.
He's a big boy, then.
From Savage. He is bigger. And you get to fight him as if
like the size of the one in Boy Band Road Trip.
Yeah, like that might be bigger than that one. Like it
that was a literal mountain.
You can literally climb around on that one.
Yeah, you can literally climb around on this one too, as an icon who's about 8 times as tall as a human. at least.
Ifrit did not skip leg day either.
Yeah, well, you're used to chicken leg Ifrit, who we have as the normal Ifrit in Final Fantasy XIV. It's not so much
Yeah.
this Ifrit didn't skip leg day as chicken leg Ifrit has chicken legs.
Well, usually when you see Ifrit, he's kind of crouched down. This Ifrit just stands up straight.
Right. So
it looks weird.
So yeah, that's a good note point to jump
Can't
once
be
we
as
finish
weird
music.
as boy band Ifrit.
Yeah, that one was weird. I didn't like boy band.
That one
road
was
trip.
weird.
I didn't like 50.
Anywho, that I think is my time, unfortunately.
Okay.
Oh no.
So I'm going to kick you guys out of my world, and I got to go to work.
All right. We will leave co-op.
I don't wanna, but I gotta.
Adulting for the lose.
All righty. Yeah, I don't think there was anything specific in 16 that I need to hit you for, Fern. But if there's any highlights that I think you might find interesting, I'll reiterate them next.
Yeah, I do still want to play the game because it does look good, and I know that there's a lot of stuff in there that I would like.
For you, Fern, if you disengage from the side quests, it is a neutral recommendation. It's not a ringing one, but it's not a don't recommend either.
Yeah, the last couple of Final Fantasy mainline games fell flat.
I do not think it will
12
fall
was kind
flat.
of
Yeah, I don't think it will fall
13
flat with
was
you, but I
dirty.
don't think you will find it exceptionally memorable. But I think the icon fights will more than make up for it. So that's for you personally because you're leaving early.
Yeah, I will wait for a sale.
Yep, I will.
All right, I gotta
recommend
run. I will catch everyone later.
Later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Right. So, Soken's music, because I'm trying to blitz through this. Soken's music is pretty good throughout for the boss fights, the boss themes, the event themes when big stuff is happening. His big bombastic tracks in this game are really good. His more subdued themes are some of the most put you to sleep that he's ever put together, and I don't like any of them.
So you mean that in a bad way, not that they're meant to be soothing?
Yeah, they are meant to be subdued, but he overdoes it.
It's just like it becomes more ambient than subdued music.
Yeah, like the zone music is not memorable whatsoever, and I feel like I'm gonna go to sleep. Thankfully, there's a jukebox in the hideout, so if I need to wake up, I can just turn on the Final Fantasy XIV Leviathan theme, and we're good to go. So
I guess that's also good since it's Yoshi P and Soken, so they've got the rights to all of the music on hand.
Yeah, there's a ton of remixes and just straight ports from Final Fantasy XIV you can get as orchestrating roles. Just Lahi was not in there, I don't think. All right, if it is, I haven't found it yet.
But Lahi is everybody's favorite.
Well, at least it's not Trombone Hero.
I don't know. I've got Stockholm Syndrome for Trombone Hero.
I do not like Rosalind's music. So yeah, I like a bunch of Soken's tracks. I especially like a bunch of his vocal tracks, but he has some serious misses with me. And the more subdued tracks in this game are definitely misses. But it is a very polarized soundtrack for me because I love most of the boss themes and most of the action.
I mean, the thing is, Soken's strengths mostly have been in really dramatic pieces rather than the subdued stuff. Like he's got some good subdued stuff. Like there's more subdued material in Final Fantasy XIV that I really like. It's just that most of the real bangers his much more dramatic set piece music, not his ambient stuff.
Yeah.
Ambient stuff, though, I mean, to some extent, you don't want it to steal the show, but there's sort of a balance to be struck there.
Yeah, it totally fades into non-existence. It's so put you to sleep here, and yeah, that's basically it's hard for me to describe music, people, and opinions on it. It's always something I've struggled with, but yeah, that's where I stand on it. I like about half of the tracks, and absolutely could do without the others. Okay, so moving on from music. Where Fern had made a point that I wanted to go off of. I do not remember where I was going with that. Okay, anyway. So there's a big old section about gameplay there. Let's make sure I covered everything. Right. The biggest weakness of the main story is the main villain is meant to feel alien, for lack of a better word. And he is introduced at the end of Act 1. and you get to see his face, and he does make a screen appearance and makes repeated screen appearances, which is good, and in fact engages with the protagonist every so often. The problem is with him, I think they made him just too alien. They made his perspective and way of looking at things just a little too blue and orange, and a little too not human. And
So he sort of just becomes a force of nature rather than a character.
yeah, he's a force of nature with that wraps all this in a, contradictory to what I said before, selfish aura, and it's very hard to parse him as a character. You kind of just have to take him as a self-obsessed tornado. For lack of a better word or descriptor. I don't really like the way they did him. I think some people will like him. I think that alienness will ring okay with some people. I think this is one of my more subjective negatives with the game. But he definitely didn't sit as good for me as as a human antagonist that I could relate to and understand the backstory of would have. So that's.
I mean, so then how is it really? How did they pull off interaction with the character, the player perspective character, if their perspective is so alien that they're just a self-absorbed tornado? Like how does an interaction even take place in that context?
Because of the alien's connection to Ifrit, not Clive specifically, although Clive is currently the vessel for Ifrit. But because of the villain's ties to the icon of
the icons characters.
No, the icons have no character whatsoever. They are fully under the control, unless they're rampaging, in which case they're just beasts when the dominant loses control. But otherwise, the dominant is in full control. Like Jonathan will talk through the Phoenix despite having no mouth when he's in full Phoenix mode. And Clive can talk in Ifrit mode despite having a dog face. Like, they are just basically super transformations for the characters until they lose control, and then the icon, when it's in control, is just a wild beast slamming around like you saw Garuda doing when you were watching me play last night. So he has the main villain has direct ties to Ifrit, and this is why he is interested in Clive, because he needs Ifrit to accomplish his goals. So yeah, that's a relatively minor gripe, because having a alien final boss like that for Final Fantasy that is just bigger and grander in scale than most of the rest of the cast is pretty stock. This happens a lot.
Well, the thing is that usually it's the case where they will become that way rather than that they started that way.
Yeah.
Like if you look at, say, Sephiroth, he becomes more and more unhinged as the story goes along. If you look at, although it's sort of arguable, if you look at like Seymour Guado, he becomes more and more unhinged as the story goes along.
Yeah, and Kafka starts off as only slightly insane, and then goes completely insane.
That said, I don't even remember who the bad guy is in Final Fantasy 13.
One of the dudes with the seal, the Lassie, isn't it?
I presume it's the Fal'Cie, but the Fal'Cie, like, what are they?
Yeah. Yeah, this was one of the issues, especially taking 13, just the base game without the follow-ups, is understanding what the heck those things are is very difficult unless you're paying a lot of attention and doing extra reading.
Yeah, like I've played Final Fantasy 13 and 13-2, and I have not played Lightning Returns, and I feel like my understanding of that setting is at an absolute minimum.
Yeah, it's a shoe in that game as well, but this one doesn't feel like it's not explained so much as it's too alien to explain. As in, they're going to make a token attempt to give you the broad strokes.
Okay, so they think that they can actually communicate it, but they aren't successful, is what you're saying.
Yes, the concept they're going for with the mindset of this villain is too alien to communicate to humans in what they're getting across. And while that is what they're going for, I don't think that makes for a compelling, good final villain, because it just makes it hard to understand and relate to him. Because yeah, anything I say about him will spoil what he is and a lot of the background elements of the game that run for the overarching lore of the story. So I don't want to get into that. But
I'm not disinterested in playing it. The problem is that I don't know when I would play it.
yeah. So
I still have freaking Stranger of Paradise on my to-play list.
that one, yeah, I need to go back to that one at some point.
Did you finish it?
No, I didn't finish it. Something else came out that distracted me. So yeah, gameplay, right? Okay, so I've had a few minor gripes about the story, but overall, the main story mostly is a positive experience. Side quests, not so much. But the side quests tie into the gameplay section, and that let's skip combat for now. Let's come back to that later. Let's continue on this related tear by going to world exploration and questing miscellaneous. Okay. This is where it is very clear an MMO team put this game together. They did the same mistake they do in Final Fantasy XIV, except they compounded it with one design choice that I don't think they thought about and realized how big an impact it would have until later. They have made these big open world map sections where you have to go do your side questing in, and where you have to, where you can go out and grind if you choose, although grinding doesn't really do anything. Amount of EXP needed to hit the subsequent levels scales rapidly to the point where even though the EXP doesn't go down for the mobs you were killing before, it's like jumping from adventure rank 55 to 56. The amount of EXP needed is astronomically higher. So grinding ain't going to get you anywhere. But you can do it. You can go out there to farm materials if you accidentally messed up something in the incredibly linear crafting system. But these maps are just empty big space with very, very few things to find in them. And the few things...
Grand Pulse.
yeah, these things are not very well signposted by landmarks at all. This is a huge issue and time waster if you decide to mow these maps. Do not mow these maps. Just don't do it. You're wasting your time. You will save yourself a solid 5 to 6 hours. Just do not lawn mow these maps. And I would not be so enthusiastic about giving that advice if Clive's movement speed wasn't the pace of a slow snail on a Sunday morning. Like, he is not in a hurry. Especially before you get your chimkin. He takes forever of running outside of combat to enter sprint, because there is no just sprint button out of combat. He's going to do a leisurely jog for like 12 seconds and then break into a sprint until you have to stop or turn around or jump. And then he's going to go back to that leisurely jog again. It is a pain to navigate the open worlds with Clive until you get your chimkin. And you may be tempted to. You may be tempted, I can go get some ability points. Don't. You'll have more than enough from the store. Yeah, you'll
just run straight from place to place until you can get your chicken.
Yeah, if it's going to bug you, immediately after Act 1 ends, the very first side quest at Martha's Rest that becomes available is get your chimkin. And it will make, if you do your mowing then, it'll make your life way easier if you must mow, although no, even doing that, there is not much to find. Especially in the base game. Just don't do it. This was a huge black mark on my play experience, and a big time sink I was genuinely mad about, where I felt like I just wasted my time. It is the only point in the game where I felt like my time was being insulted.
So how would you have solved it? Would you have just tuned up his run speed, or would you have added fast travel, or like what would you have done?
There is fast travel, and there are even enough fast travel points to be reasonable, but basically what needs to happen is you need to get that Chickabo immediately. And Clive's run sprint animation needs to start about 2 seconds after you've been running in straight line out of combat instead of 12. And it needs to be or have a button, and it needs to be about 40 to 50% faster. And the chicken needs to be even faster, because there's a whole lot of time running around these big old open fields that look really pretty, but there's nothing in them.
Isn't he one of the most powerful people in his world? How can he walk so slowly?
Presumably, he's saving all his gas for the boss fights. So, okay. That is my biggest... I'll have a few other complaints around. That is the biggest gameplay gripe I got. Is exploring this world is a slog. So, just don't do it. Wait till you get your chicken, if you must mow the map. And even then, I would recommend the only thing of substance that can be out in the map that you may have to go look for will be your hunt marks, because they're just posted on a board at the start of Act 2. As the story progresses, more and more will be posted. They'll tell you a area of the world that hunt can spawn in. Just go look it up. Just save yourself the time. It's not worth it to wander these big old open fields that have jack all in them, even with the chimkin. Just go look up the hunt marks and don't worry about anything else. Anything else missable out there doesn't matter. You really must get all the orchestrion rolls. There's not even an achievement for it, but you can go look that up too. Just don't do it. It's not fun to explore. You're just going to be hurting yourself for no reason. I gave up about halfway through and started looking crap up. I did not care anymore. So, that is the biggest negative for the gameplay. The second biggest negative for the gameplay, we'll do the negatives first, has to do with combat. So we're going to move into combat now. The base difficulty... Okay, so let me rewind. There are two difficulties presented to you at the start of this game. There is action and story focus. Story focused is game journalism mode. There's a hidden difficulty in action focused that is game journalist difficulty, but you can say you played it on action difficulty, which is you equip the auto play the game accessories. So it'll auto dodge for you if you equip one. It'll auto attack and optimize combos for you with the other one. Basically turn it into Final Fantasy 15. Auto use potions for you. So you can equip those if you really want. Don't. This game is already too easy by itself. I'll get to that why. So these two difficulties are basically somewhere between an easy and a normal mode, I would consider, for most games that I played, and game journalist difficulty. So, okay, you pick the hardest mode available to you. This mode is appropriate for people that are brand spanking new to action games. You might die a couple of times on some of the bosses, or if you just totally get careless, if you're brand new to action games, or you just really don't gel with them on this difficulty. But that's a pretty low skill bar for most players that are comfortable with video games, not even necessarily action video games, but just video games in general, and know what a dodge does, and how to push buttons, and figure out.
Me.
Yeah.
I'm at that level where I know what an action game is.
Yeah, if you know roughly what the mechanics of an action game are, you're going to breeze through this. Unless you just totally fall asleep at the wheel. I did once. I died once because I just was asleep at the wheel on one boss fight. But that was what it took, was me getting just totally zonked out and distracted by something else. This game is not going to challenge you. It has a brief stint where until you figured out Garuda and before you get the Titan's moveset, you're going to feel very crunched on the number of icon abilities you have, especially when they start to become your main source of damage. For a very brief stint of time, and then you get Titan. And now you have more abilities than you know what to do with. And you're just going to keep adding that arsenal, and just keep playing with them, and find the ones that work, that are most fun for you, and level up the ones that you use a lot, and you're going to be blasting your way through the content. This is not okay for an action game. Let me explain why I'm more harsh towards action games when it comes to difficulty that's too easy than any other genre of game. Action games need to be tailored to the play experience and skill level of the person that's playing them. Otherwise, they can't get the most. Going to be things that a veteran action game player can see that they want to do, or experiment, or try. And if the enemy has too little HP or isn't punishing them hard enough for mistakes, it's just going to frustrate them, because they're not going to know how effective whatever they just thought was cool actually is. You have got to provide them an adequate level of difficulty in terms of enemy scaling and enemy variety. This is notable in, like, if we use the tried and true Devil May Cry comparison in Sons of Sparta, why they start spawning harder enemies sooner, and why they jack their health so much. Because the point is to allow you to express your mastery or developing mastery over the game as you're figuring crap out or trying stuff or just demonstrating what you already know. This is important to the feel of any action game. And this game may have Final Fantasy on the title screen. It's not an RPG. This is an action game completely. All the RPG and stat-like elements are totally superfluous and could be removed. In fact, I think they should have been removed. I don't think any of those RPG elements were necessary. They just detract from the game experience, in my opinion. And even something as simple as crafting your weapons is a linear upgrade path that you just go back to the blacksmith and say, okay, it's a new chapter, give me my new weapon for free, please. Here's the materials that I have in excess of the gorillions. Okay, thanks, bye. You just gotta remember to do a chore after every mission to make sure your weapon's up at the current tier. And then you go do whatever you're doing for that chapter. And then when the next one starts, you do it again. It's just an extra pit stop at the start of chapters. That's it. There is no farming for crafting materials. There is no planning out stuff to go get or do for the crafting. There's no crafting trees. It's just go get the new weapon. And you're always going to have the materials for it unless it requires hunt targets, which you don't know are going to drop the materials you need because you don't know which hunts drop what things. It doesn't tell you on the hunt board. So they could have just cut the weapon and armor upgrade system out entirely. It does nothing. It will always be matched to whatever chapter you're currently on and appropriate for your level. The end. The level up system, as I mentioned before, scales off so hard once you are at appropriate level for the zone and takes so much EXP to level. Grinding is a non-option. There is no point for it to be there, and because of the way the EXP scaling works, you're always going to be the appropriate level for whatever zone you're in. Why is there a level up system?
I guess that to try and play devil's advocate, they probably feel like they've got an obligation to create some kind of halfway house between, the ultra orthodox, like Final Fantasy X, let's say, style of Final Fantasy and an action game. Like, I don't know why they've got this monomania about action games that has led them to believe that they're no longer in the business of making JRPGs, but they seem to feel like they've got this obligation to induct franchise fans into other genres, and they probably would think that, oh well, if we just add familiar concepts to the mix, then people will feel more comfortable about it rather than frustrated.
Yeah. I think it's something in that ballpark. It is frustrating to me because while I enjoy JRPGs and RPGs, I really, really, when I put my time down to play video games, the most fun I have is in action games. And so this had an opportunity to be something I could really jive with if they'd have gone whole hog into it and just fully committed. And they built a good skeleton here. The icon system acting as your style system or your weapon system if you want Bayonetta analog, or your astral system if you go astral chain. There's plenty of examples in action games out there. It has that core hot swapping system that DMC4 has made so popular, and it works really well. The core abilities that you get just for having an icon equipped on the special button, from Garuda's Nero style grab to Phoenix's trickster dash to Leviathan, who's a DLC icon, but more on that later. And his heavy gun style, all that feels really good to use. All their unique active abilities that once you put enough points into them and mastered them, you can put on any icon, all feel really unique and fun to use and feel like they all serve a diverse purpose. That's a good skeleton. The problem is all the crap around it. And instead of putting your dev time and effort into trying to cobble these wacky RPG systems or these really jank fetch quests, side quests that tell a story you've already iterated in the main story so many times, just build a more competent action game system around your skeleton you've got. Just put a little bit more in there, a little bit more for us to chew on. And you would have had a very, very competent action game on your hands. It's already workable and what I would call good, especially compared to some of the crap that comes out these days. But it could have been so much more if you just committed to what your vision was. And your vision was clearly an action game. But you didn't. You needed to do this halfway house thing, which is trying to serve two masters and making neither of us happy. So, and, you know, if action is the way you want to go, Squeenix, you're going to win the Final Fantasy people over better, I think, to try in action games by just making a really good action game. If all their action game friends come to them and go, "Oh yeah, I played 16. It was stellar. I love the combat in that game. Gave me vibes of Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, Astral Chain, etc. Whatever." Yeah, that's how you get those players to try out new genres, not by trying to tease them in with bait like you're some kind of fisherman.
Yeah, I think the real indictment is that if they really believed that they needed to soft pedal everything, then why would they also have games journalist mode?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that games journalist mode is kind of humiliating, but I mean, you're just going to have to suck that humiliation down if you want to play a genre you're not good at without getting good at it.
Yeah, and the base difficulty of this game is so approachable that even if you are just the worst action game player in the world and you're dying a few times on bosses, that's the appropriate difficulty setting for you. I don't see you dying more than a few times on bosses, even if you're really bad at action games. Like, dying a couple times on a new boss is what I think is the appropriate level of difficulty a player should be playing at if they're looking to have the best experience possible. You don't want to be chain wiping. You want to feel like the win is easily doable for you. But this brings us back around to the difficulty in general and why this is a huge problem, because you have locked hard mode behind number 1. New Game Plus is the first step in difficulty. This moves us up to what I would call somewhere between normal and hard, and that you have taken the Devil May Cry example, like I mentioned before, and started spawning more challenging enemies way sooner, and the packs are bigger and have more varied enemy types in them. This is good, okay? And what's more, you've increased the scaling on their health and the rate the enemies level up, so that they always out-level you a little bit, so that you don't break them as fast as you make your way through. Okay, that's good. We're on the right track. We're still not quite all the way there yet. It's still too easy, but we're moving in the right direction. Why the heck is this locked behind New Game Plus in a 40 to 60 hour game? Because this is the appropriate level of challenge I needed. Like, this is my home genre. And difficulty is important to me when it comes to this kind of stuff. Why is this level of difficulty, or at least the scaling of it, forget the enemy variety for a second, why isn't the scaling that's in this difficulty level not available to me as an action game player from the start? Because this made my first playthrough way more of a slog than it should have been, because I did not have to think for a single combat encounter. There was no brain work whatsoever. Nothing was difficult for me. There was no challenge. There was no engaging with the combat. Stuff died too fast. I did not get punished for any of the mistakes I made, so I didn't know how big a mistake the mistake was, and I would just button mash my way through with a minimal amount of perfect dodging and thought. That is not acceptable.
Or at least sounds like the start of ZZZ.
that is not acceptable when you're presenting an action game to an action game player if you want their accolades. You've got to provide a way for us to enjoy the game. And if your game is too easy, it's just not happening. Action games need to have there's a reason they usually ship with 4 difficulty levels out the gate at minimum. Because the player needs to be able to tune that for their own experience to get the most out of it in these types of games. If the game is too easy or too hard for them, it's going to just be not a fun experience. Action games come from finding that medium and working your way up the difficulty level. That's where a lot of the enjoyment comes from. You cannot lock this crap behind New Game Plus. And it's one thing if your game was like a 6 to 8 hour first timer to get through like 20 missions or something, like a bunch of action games are. It's not as egregious there. You have a 40 to 60 hour RPG experience for your first playthrough, and then you're asking me to spend another 5 to 12 skipping cutscenes trying to speed my way through the game to get to an appropriate difficulty? Are you insane?
Yeah, I'm not. It might just be that they have taken the position that, oh well, I mean, anybody who would be crazy enough to want to play it at this difficulty must already be a fanatic, right? They don't care how many times they play the game. I
Yeah.
don't know. It seems nonsensical to me, and I feel like if this game was made originally for PC in the PC gaming world, they would have just patched this. Like, this sounds like one of the things that, like, Hoyo making a move like this would have patched it in the next patch
Yeah,
to
this
get
is
rid of that restriction, because this is the sort of thing that they have learned to be very attentive to feedback on. Like, when people are just upset about something having been made inaccessible for inscrutable reasons, they will usually just, back down on it right away. And this seems like one of those types of things where what you need to do is listen to the feedback that you're getting about your decision and then just back down if it's not going to harm the product in any way, because it's making people unhappy, and the people who aren't unhappy won't care.
yeah. And it is incredibly frustrating to me, and that I see the potential to, even with just the skeleton they've got, really turn this into something that I gotta have fun with and enjoy. The problem is I have to work after I've already paid them money to get to that point. Like, I just have to do a chore of blitzing New Game Plus to get to that point, because the arcade mode doesn't unlock everything in Ultimaniac's difficulty, which is where I should be playing the game, until I've beaten New Game Plus. The only difficulty level available until you start New Game Plus is the base difficulty of action difficulty. And the Final Fantasy difficulty the New Game Plus is set up to is unlocked as you progress through it in the New Game Plus run. Like, come on. At the very least, what you call Final Fantasy difficulty should have been available from point one. Like, if you want to lock Ultimaniacs behind New Game Plus, okay, whatever. But at least let us do the hard, what's the equivalent of hard mode. Like, come on. Anyway, that's a major gripe with the way the action game part of it's handled. But aside from that gripe with it, the skeleton they have put together here is a competent skeleton. It has all the bones it needs to be fun. And I think messing around with it at the higher difficulties when I finally unlock it will probably yield several hours of good fun. Problem
If
is
you're
that
not already bored with it.
yeah, but at that point I'm already at burnout, so I'm already going to have to put it on the shelf after this. So I'm not going to experiment
There's only
with
so
it very
much
much.
time in the day. I think this is something that a lot of developers are going to have to really start to get to grips with, is the fact that you are competing for limited time. Like, this is not just about winning, like, teenagers' limited pocket money anymore. This is about winning adult gamers' free time.
Well,
And
even
there's only a very small amount of it to go around. And if you burn them out on the content, or make the content look inaccessible because it's too far away in terms of the raw time required, you are simply not going to get people's interest. You need to hand them something that hooks them up front, not wait until they've worked for it in order to get it.
yeah, and this is for something especially like unlocking a difficulty. That's not acceptable. Especially when these days, even if we were kids that were just born into, the Zoomer generation, God forbid, that would be awful aside, but the other thing is you would still be competing for time because kids these days are spoiled for choice in games. There's so many games out right now. Even
I live in a world where, as a kid, a new game cost $120, and I did not have that much pocket money.
yeah, well, I couldn't buy every new game either. But the fact of the matter,
I could buy maybe 2 or 3 games a year grand total. So
yeah, I would get 1 or 2 games for Christmas, and over the course of about 3 to 4 months, could save up enough for one game. When I was a kid and young teenager before I got a job, and that was how it was for us. But kids these days have free to play games they spend all their time on with Fortnite and stuff. that's eaten huge time sinks. So they have the free to play time sinks, in addition to having a huge swath of single player games available to them. Because when we were younger, there just weren't that many games either compared to the.
You said the phrase "kids these days" without irony. I think that means you're officially old.
Probably. Well, yeah, we're in our mid to late 30s. We qualify. So so but the kids, they got so many more choices than we did. When they go on Steam, the amount of games they have that cost $20, when $20 is probably given out as a weekly
I don't think
allowance.
kids play those games though. Like, my assumption is that kids only play Fortnite.
They do mostly seem to play those, but the option is still there. When you're given a bunch of single player choices, you're going to go for cost effect and whatever's most interesting to you. And they have a much bigger
You're gonna go for whatever your favorite streamer plays. Let's be real.
Probably, but that and you're probably going to think that's what you enjoy instead of having to experiment yourself. But the fact of the matter is, there are single player experiences for decades now where something can potentially catch your eye or your favorite streamer's eye that you are competing with. And what's more, because Steam sales happen and because kids probably with inflation get $20 for allowance these days, who knows? You know the amount that used to take us months to save up. They can buy whatever the heck they want, relatively speaking. Tons of cheap single player options out there to keep them entertained now. You've got to present a product that is going to fit into their time schedule between their free to play games and their plethora of choices of single player games, and one that's quality enough to win out over those other choices and catch their attention. And so taking these weird halfway house, try to be a little bit to everybody, I don't think is the way to go. I think doubling down on whatever your vision is and specializing in it and doing the best product you can is the way to go. Like, if you want to make a turn-based JRPG, make the best turn-based JRPG you can, doubling down into every single thing that makes that a genre, or innovating where you genuinely have a good idea. Don't try and do this weird halfway action, halfway turn-based, halfway with art, or this open thing with random RPG elements. Don't do that crap.
I think that they've been given the message that that's okay though, because Final Fantasy's been doing that. Like, that's just the thing that they keep doing over and over again. It's like they think that this is how they're supposed to do it.
Yeah. Sharky, destroy all of Timmy's pigeons. But yeah, that's a big gripe with me with this one. So yeah, but it is so frustrating because I see the potential for the skeleton, and it was put together by people from the skeleton for the gameplay itself was put together by people that worked on Dragon's Dogma and DMC5, and you can tell there's a whole lot of inspiration drawn, especially from DMC5, and the way the icons mirror styles from that game very, very closely, and the basic moves Clive has are very easily slotted into either Dante or Nero as their starting point. He just straight up has Stinger. It gets upgraded later to add a little swipe at the end with the fire on it, but it's for its first level, it's just Stinger. He has Helmbreaker. Like, enemy step is in the game. If you put enemy step in your game, you're clearly trying for something with your action combat, and that thing is called Devil May Cry. So, and all of that's fine. All of Devil May Cry has proved that stuff works, and it's been refined to a T. And you just needed to build on this. You needed to focus on enemy variety. You needed to focus on paths to upgrade Clive's basic combo would have been nice. Things like this, instead of these tacked on leveling and equipments, none of this matters to action games.
I mean, you could conceive of a way in which it did. Like, they kind of did that with whatchamacallit. Now, I'm not saying I liked it necessarily or that it was a good implementation, but they kind of did that with Darksiders too. They sort of hybridized the MMO loot drop mechanic with sort of action combat, and depending on what sort of weapon style you were using and the special effects you might get on like unique drops and that sort of thing, it would change the way you played and the sort of moves you prioritize and that sort of thing. Like, I think that there might be an implementation that does work, but there's simply no point in attempting it in a half-hearted way. Like, if you really want that, if that's how you want this to work, well, you've got to put effort into making sure that it gets developed to the fullest. Like, if you want RPG elements to mesh properly with an action game, then the design objective needs to be to mesh RPG elements with an action game, not, oh, well, we'll just tack these on at the end so that people have got a bar to make go up.
And what's funny to me about this game, I mentioned it's obvious some stuff had pruning done to it. And I think these equipment and RPG systems originally had more go. And sometime in development they got cut. I have no interviews or any source that can confirm or deny this. This is just how it appears to me. Because there's a plethora of stats that get upgraded whenever you level up. Like a will stat that influences magic damage, and strength stat, and ability stat, and all this good stuff that just translate into you have more health and do more damage by a fixed percentage increase that's the same percentage to everything. Like, those stats clearly need to or at one point probably tied to something where you could adjust them with equipment types. And the equipment system probably wasn't as linear as it is right now, because as it stands now, the only pieces of equipment that do anything of note are the accessories. The accessories will can buff specific damage types, but specifically with the Omega DLC, the Echoes of the Fallen, where you fight the super boss Omega and go through Omega dungeon. The stuff from that dungeon, the accessories there, can radically change how you play the game. And that's the only location where they are, and there are about 5 of them, and that's it. So they clearly realized it was a problem, and that's all they really added. And they added the token ultimate weapon which was the thing you kept calling the penis sword, or the gay sword.
Well, it looks kind of weirdly flamboyant.
Yeah,
doesn't really look like a weapon
because it comes from a high-tech robot in a fantasy world. But yeah, it's just the token boss weapon for that DLC. Like they tried to do something a little different in the Leviathan DLC, where they made the Tonberry knife as the only weapon in that DLC. And what the Tonberry knife does is it had greatly reduced damage compared to even the strongest weapon in the base game. Like it was equivalent to one you would have got near the end of Act 2 in terms of damage, but its stagger damage was through the roof. So they thought about trying to mix it up a little bit and try and add some variety into the equipment. But it's DLC, and it's just too late. You've already got all your dev time focused on making the DLC. You don't have time to cram in weird new crafting mechanics and new equipment stuff at that point. But the fact that they put the token bits in there shows that they were thinking about it. So I don't know. This isn't an ongoing game, though, so it doesn't really matter that you were thinking about it then. I mean, the game is not going to get updated with new equipment and new ways to handle the stats. But even if you signaled that you're aware it's a problem, there's no hope of you going and fixing it, because there'll be no more DLC for this game. We've already moved on. But maybe if your team gets put in 17, you can take some of the lessons that you learned if you decide to do action again and go all the way this time. You went more of the way towards action than you ever had before, Squeenix and Yoshi P. I'm proud of you for doing better than you have done. But better just gets you a passing grade. It doesn't get you an A. And I know you guys are capable of an A. Right now you've got like a C-. And I'm grading on
I think I don't feel like this is a failure to accomplish something they set out to do, though. I think that they put their target in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I don't think they were trying to make a fully competent action game. Without passing comment on the wisdom of them not attempting that, I don't think that was what they were attempting. I think that they thought that the goal was the halfway house.
Yeah. So, well, that is what it is. I've said my piece on that part of the game now. The next part of gameplay, and the thing that all the budget went into, and the biggest highlight of the game, I wanted to end it on a positive. The icon fights. So, the first icon fight, you actually control Phoenix with Joshua piloting him or is it Jonathan or Joshua? I cannot remember. That shows you how tired I am right now. I've been up for many hours. It might be Joshua. I might have been saying Jonathan, and it might be Joshua. I think it is. So you might be spared. Your name may not be in the game.
It would make it easier to appreciate.
So, yeah, it is Joshua. Okay. Clive screams his name enough, you'd think it'd be ingrained in my brain. But I'm very tired right now. So, yeah. The first fight is with Phoenix. And this is not indicative of how the icon fights will be in the future. And it is Phoenix fighting Ifrit, and is mostly a cutscene. The next time you take control, but it looks really pretty. And it is very big, and watching two monsters fight each other and controlling one of them, regardless of how clunky it is, your first time especially, that's going to be a lot of fun. The second time is probably the worst icon fight in the game, and that's Ifrit versus Garuda. This is the first time Clive turns into Ifrit and is in partial control of him. And because Clive doesn't have a real handle on Ifrit yet, it's mostly just a bestial slugfest between a rampaging icon and a half-controlled Ifrit. And so you don't have any real handle on any kind of the combos that Ifrit can eventually learn to do. The next time, however, you get control of him, you start unlocking more and more of the Ifrit combo system with every subsequent icon fight. And they do a very, very smart thing, where Ifrit becomes his own full combat system from the third fight onwards. And what he does is he mirrors Clive. The same controls to use the activated icon abilities activate Ifrit's activated abilities that are static. He only has 2 of them. And the same special button does Ifrit's special action, which is a dash similar to Phoenix's. And the same melee attack button does an Ifrit melee attack. And you can do ground and aerial combos the same way on Ifrit. Ifrit can even enemy step. It looks funny, but he can do it. So he can mirror everything that Clive can do with the exact same input from Clive. You want to do the advancing forward stinger type move, you can do Ifrit stinger by pushing the same button. And it'll just work. And this makes the icon fights way more fun than they might appear initially, especially when you're controlling Ifrit. They do have a lot of HP, but that's kind of the point of having 2 giant kaiju go slugfest on each other. Is you want the big chunky monsters just punching as hard as they can. They don't go on so long. Titan does go on for a real long time, but he is presented narratively in a way that makes you want that fight to go on, so you can just keep pounding that asshole into the dirt, no matter how big he gets.
You really want? Is it like the person that you don't like?
Yeah,
by that point?
you do not like Hugo by that point. He has personally
so
made Clive's life a living hell for the last 5 years. You're ready to go.
So you've got kind of a motivation to force him to dance the humiliation conga.
Yeah. So you just go to town for like 5 full phases, and holy crap, did they spend money on these? Like, all of the fights in with icons are big in budget, big in set piece, tons of unique animations and models all over the place. Well done, thorough animation on all the icons. Like, they spent the bank on these. This is what they wanted to advertise and get to people. This is clearly Yoshi P's grand idea when he started this. I want player to turn into Ifrit, and I want him to fight other people that turn into giant monsters, and we're going to have big old kaiju slugfest, and it's going to be a grand old time. This is where the game's idea started and where all of its budget went. And during these moments, the game is at its best, doing its set piece thing. If its thing is building towards these set pieces, and that is the only goal it succeeds at it well enough to warrant at least a cursory glance from these alone. The competent story, for especially after we've not been eating well with Final Fantasy for the last long time, and the characters and all the nice skeleton combat system, all that's gravy. The real thing you're here that it's all building to is these giant boss fights. And they all feel really good. So standouts are Leviathan and his DLC, because they actually, I'm 99% sure they ran out of time to add Leviathan, because they were supposed to have the classic elements plus light and dark. And Leviathan just doesn't have anything in the base game and is conspicuously unmentioned by the final boss. And he's just mentioned as Leviathan the Lost in a few bits of character dialogue and side quests. And they crammed him in as the last DLC, and he acts as easily the hardest icon fight in the game, and is a big highlight. I really enjoyed that fight. He was a ton of fun. Titan, I mentioned before, is a giant highlight. Bahamut is probably the best one, and you actually fight Bahamut in the middle of the game. You fight him as the fourth or the fifth icon. I can't remember. That fight is a ton of fun, especially for the narrative weight that goes on with it, and watching Ifrit go when you see Ifrit pull his own devil trigger. That's something else to watch happen and control and play as. It's a good time. That part of the game does its job. Unfortunately, I think all that budget being wasted there is probably why we have such empty world everywhere else, because that must have cost a colossal amount of money to make for every single one of these. But yeah, that's where we're at with Final Fantasy 16. So, do I recommend the game or not? I've said a few positive things and a few negative things. I've really harped on about the difficulty thing and its nature as an action game. What do I think about the game itself, and do I recommend it to various types of players out there? It's a hard call. For action game players, you're probably going to pick this up anyway, because we're not exactly eating very healthy right now. There are not very many good AAA action games out there for us to really chew on. They come out very interspaced with each other. So you probably poked at it already and know the shortcomings of it. But if you haven't yet, there is a skeleton there that is worth checking out. And depending on your skill level at action games, you can give this one a tentative purchase. Maybe a wait for a sale, but definitely a look at. If you are into the more story-driven side of things, and you just like the Final Fantasy aesthetic because the storytelling is dramatically structured differently than other Final Fantasy, because it tries to play into that Western style dark fantasy while still being Final Fantasy high fantasy without as much magic. If you can get past that and you still want the Final Fantasy aesthetic and good storytelling, the game is easy enough. If you don't mind the action combat so much, or if it even sounds like that might be a plus for you, yeah, go ahead and scoop this. I think it'll be okay. Oh, and there's 3 seconds of BlackRock ESG score nonsense in one scene that is the most crammed in to meet ESG score I've ever seen in a video game, and it was so distracting when it happened. But if that doesn't turn you off either, yeah, give it a look. For RPG fans, there is nothing for you here. If your main focus is to play an RPG video game, go look elsewhere. This ain't for you.
On account of it not being one.
Yeah, like don't let even if Final Fantasy may have treated you that well in the past, maybe if even some of the other action RPGs had at least caught your attention and you still enjoyed the RPG elements in them, that you're going to be disappointed here, because we have just continued the prune of RPG elements, and as far along on the action game train as we are, it would be better if they excise them all. So So that's where we're at with 16. Overall, for me personally, I think it is a competently done action game that, aside from the open world being empty, I don't feel like most of it wasted my time. I did not enjoy most of the side quests outside of the main cast, but for the time I spent going through the main story, and going through the DLCs especially, which were a lot of fun to play through, and their stories were pretty good. And for the time I spent going through the character stories at the hideout and hanging out with the main core cast, that was all really good. The rest of the game is very hit and miss with me personally, and I still am not sure whether I would come down on a more positive or a more neutral side for the game. Because while I have harped on about the difficulty thing, at the end of the day, I still did enjoy some of the combat. There was still some enjoyment there. That skeleton goes a long way to giving it positive points. Like a good action game skeleton, if you're going for an action game, will get you there and not make me just blast you. If you've got something workable that I can have some player expression with, and it did succeed at doing that at least. It just could have been so much better, and it's very disappointing that it wasn't. But at least narratively, I was not super let down by it. I do hope they don't do this again, though. One darker, more mature Final Fantasy was enough. Please have some color palette for the next game. I don't want to have to crank the brightness settings in the next game up to 9 out of 10. Please, Kay, thanks. I mean that in both the narrative sense and the literal lighting sense. Please. Please. Some colors.
But bruh, the real world is like all grey and brown, so our games also have to be like all grey and brown.
Well, it's not that it's gray and brown, it's just the lights are off.
I mean, but this is something that has been commented on at length by people in every industry these days, as far as like media is concerned, particularly the film industry, is that the visual and sound engineering has completely gone down the tubes. The people just don't seem to care anymore for some reason, and it's not really clear on exactly why that is, but it's the norm now for there to be a lot of movies that get released where you just can't see what's going on because everything is dark all the time for no clear reason. And there's a lot of movies that come out these days where the dialogue is basically inaudible because the audio engineering has the sound effects and the music mixed way too high, and so on and so forth. And this just seems to be an ongoing issue that nobody seems that interested in solving for some reason.
Yeah, in any game when I boot it up, one of the first options I change before I even hear anything is set music and sound effects to 80% of whatever voices are. Otherwise, you can't hear anything. And I don't know if that was something I needed to do for this game, but I did it out of habit. But the brightness is definitely they made this game too dark. Turn the lights on, please, and find a bit more color. They did good with the Leviathan DLC. There's a lot of color in that one. But for Act 3 of the game, we get the last zone of Dawntrail effect, where there's a whole lot of gray everywhere. Not on the landscape. The landscape doesn't lose color, but it does get very dark, and the skies get gray. The signal the foreboding final boss is coming, and
everything is pitch dark at the end of 15 as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. They turned the lights out completely because it's got to be nighttime the whole time for the demons to run around. Yeah, so for the next game, please turn the lights on. I would like to, at least if I have to explore a big empty world again that time, I'd at least like to be able to admire the scenery. But to do that, I need...
The world is dark like my soul.
I mean, there are places for dark areas. You can have dark regions. Just give us a little bit. Like, a couple regions ago. You know, when we're inside, a couple more torches. Wouldn't kill you. Okay, anyway. That's all I got for 6. I've gone on way too long. But, yeah. Do you have anything specific you wanted to ask or anything you wanted to compare it to with Dawntrail that you wanted me to clarify?
I don't know. It's just a case of 50 hours, man. I don't know if I've got 50 hours.
Yeah, it took me weeks, and I have significantly more free time than you do.
It's just yeah, I don't know. Like it's got to what people want always is a return to form. Like they want the sort of seminal experience that Final Fantasy traditionally were, like a real landmark, and it just seems like they never are anymore.
Yeah, I don't think this one's going in the history books for anything. I don't think it's that good. I think it is the parts that are done well and competently. Kind of like not we're looking at about not quite Heavensward tier for the story, but close to it. The overall story, taken in total, which is fine.
I mean, I'm happy with a decent story, generally speaking. I just don't know if I'm happy with 50 hours of decent story if I'm going to be spending most of that time walking slowly cross country.
Yeah, and hearing about how slavery for bears and bad MK.
Like, I don't know, maybe I'll just wait and see if they patch the walk speed to be faster or something.
Maybe
Or
somebody will come out with a mod.
A 99-cent DLC that gives you a motorcycle. Like,
Yeah, because like you saw how fast I was leisurely jogging last night when you were looking over. You don't go faster than that. There is no run button.
yeah, I'm not that impressed. And like the thing is, we're in a buyer's market, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm already eating good. I spend too much money on Hoyo games because I might have multiple of those. There have been times where I've had multiple of those $5 monthlies running at a time. I buy quite a few of the battle passes, not every battle pass, but I buy quite a few of them now and again, depending on how I feel about what I'm going to get out of them or what I have planned ahead, since there's a lot of resources tied up in them. So, but I'm quite happy to put that money in simply because Hoyo have kept me eating good for like a full year since I went back to Hoyo games now. And I've just been consistently fed quality content day in, day out. And when I get told, okay, so there's this new Final Fantasy, right? Or new expansion, Dawn Trail. And I go into Dawn Trail and I'm like, I'm expecting, Shadowbringers, Endwalker, and I get Dawn Trail. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have left my comfort zone. I was quite happy in the Hoyoverse for a while there. I go back to the Hoyoverse and I play in there for a while. And then Final Fantasy 16, finally, after, jabbing me in the ribs and laughing at me because I don't have a PS5, they finally decided to release on PC, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll look at it. And then I'm like, oh, but it's a decent story. It's a decent story. You have to spend a lot of time walking cross country, and the mechanics are actually nothing really to write home about. They're only competent. They're not excellent. And there's a whole bunch of obnoxious RPG elements that you have to indulge in, even though they don't really mean anything in the end. And you can't even engage in the traditional RPG pastime of just grinding while you listen to a podcast, because grinding doesn't do anything. Like, all of these are negatives.
Mm-hmm.
I could sit down and quite happily on a day off spend 8 straight hours wandering around a zone on Genshin while listening to a podcast, and I would not have scratched the surface of the content available to me. Or I could do something that seems like just a less mature experience than it ought to be. Like, even if Final Fantasy 16 is, quote, finished, unquote, that doesn't mean it's mature as a design concept, because it really doesn't seem to be. It seems to be an updated execution of Final Fantasy 15, and I didn't like Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
Like, they've taken that RPG hybrid thing and run with it without bothering to ask if what parts people liked and what parts people didn't.
Yeah, and
I can see where they're headed, but they haven't got there yet. Even if Final Fantasy 16 is done, it hasn't arrived where it needs to be in order to be a competent product as a whole. it seems like it falls down in a variety of places. And I mean, I might get to it eventually and play through it because I trust Yoshi P when he's paying attention can deliver a decent game, but I don't know. And the whole trying to be a more adult game thing ticks me off as well. Like, I'm just not interested in that. I don't need to have sexuality thrown in my face every 5 minutes in order to remind me I'm playing a game for real, man, or whatever.
Yeah, there are about
that's not
four,
impressive to me.
There are about 4 total scenes that go on that happen, and it's a cringe every time. They're not one of them is unfortunately long with a whole lot of back and forth with Clive and Jill washed up on a beach away from their friends off the boat and drying their clothes naked with their backs to each other scene where they talk about the adventures so far and all the struggles they've been through, but they're naked the whole goddamn time.
To what end? Like, what do you gain? Like, if that was the only instance of that scene, of that type of scene, then I wouldn't think anything of it.
But no, there are 3 more 2-minute long sexy time implied or just stopped beforehand.
This is not adding to the narrative. I know that like the argument is always the same, right? It's like, oh well, there's sex in real life. Therefore, if we don't put sex in our narrative, it will make it seem like we're just doing sort of a Fisher Price, a fantastical version of real life where people don't have urges and things. It's like, no. Actually, you're putting this in here because you want to say that you did. That's the only reason.
Yeah, you're putting this in here because sexy time catches people's eyes, and that people will talk about it, and it will give you free advertising.
I mean, it should be conspicuous at this point that none of the great romance narratives of history have graphic sex in them. Like they just don't, because it's not necessary. Because the part that is enduring about any given relationship is not the part that gets purchased from a prostitute. That's not the part that's important. Like, from a philosophical perspective, yes, I understand. Oh, well, the sexual act is a conjoining of the sort of the unitive and procreative aspects of human sexuality, etc., etc., etc. But that's not why the scene is there. That's not the purpose. They aren't thinking about these two characters might want to have kids together someday.
No,
that's not the purpose.
They want to show side booby and side booty.
Yeah, it's just about titillation. It's just about projecting that artificial idea that, oh, well, this is more adult because we put something that children aren't supposed to see. If it was not taboo, they would not have put it in there. Because it's about that taboo.
Whenever a game does it, it makes me cringe because of the language that surrounds the discussion more than anything. The word mature is used to describe, oh, it makes the game more mature. No, it doesn't.
No, it makes the game incredibly sophomoric and childish because you know the type of people who are going to be like, look at this scene, and none of those people are mature.
It's like what's actual maturity is learning to control what's in is or is not in your pants.
Yeah, it's all very farcical. It's not beneficial, but this is going to be one of those things that, well, we market tested these things, and we got the research from the
well, surprise, the market test. The market test came back and said people like booties.
Like, just because. Like, I suppose it depends, though, ultimately. Like, if the only concern that you really genuinely have is maximizing your sales, there's not that many sales are going to cease to happen because you put this content in. There will be some that will happen because it's in there. Because that's what people are like. But if what you're interested in is making a seminal work, a piece of art or something like that, then you're not going to go that route, because you're just going to be harming the greater work for the purposes of introducing titillation. That's really all that there is to it. I just don't believe arguments made to the contrary. I don't think that it's different to people who insert like excessive amounts of use of the F word into their localization or dialogue. I think it's the same phenomenon. Like, I think that the sex scenes are more egregious because they take more time and they
Are more distracting.
They are more distracting and they do more harm to the integrity of the work when they're unnecessary than just a coarsely chosen word. But I think that the spirit behind the two is the same. Like, it's like, oh well, this game has swearing in it, that means it's more mature, right? Obviously. Obviously.
Clive does drop a few F-bombs in the game, but they're not gratuitous from him. Gab says them all the time, but he's kind of the lad character at the start from the hideout.
Well, mainly I have the misogynistic opinion that women dropping F-bombs is just like cringe. Like, it comes off as way more cringe to me. I don't know why. It just does. So female characters doing it is just like, you just did this to try and make her seem more like a dude, didn't you? That's basically it.
Yeah, they I don't think Jill drops any. None of the good girls drop any. And Benedicta drops a few, I think, but she's unhinged. The dialogue was also lip synced and designed to be in English as its primary, which was weird. I found out. It was dubbed in English first, or recorded in English first and dubbed to Japanese, in the way Capcom sometimes does things with their games. Resident Evil and stuff. Devil May Cry. So
I guess it's just going to be a product of like market size or something like that.
Well,
so we decided that there were going to be more people viewing it.
I think in this
it would be more suitable that way.
In this case, I think it is because it is a very European inspired world for the most part, aside from the Sand People. Like
I seem to recall there being a little bit of discourse about that, where people were mad that there were no black people in it or something, and Yoshi P just basically told them to take a hike. It takes place in Europe, or at least like fantasy Europe.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and he is right, and that given that response existed, it feels very much like it was done that way because it's supposed to be based in as with its core as medieval Europe. Notably, only the bears are dirty. Everybody else takes showers. Not very many dirty people running around. So it does have that going for it.
Skyrim. In Skyrim, everybody is filthy all the time. Nobody has heard of a bath.
That's okay. We know the Sons of Caledon take a bath. Oh man, does Twitter mad about it too. Right. So that was a big talk, but this is what Yoshi P was spending his time on instead of 14 Contrail. This is what his team he had been splitting his attention with. This is what a bunch of his team had been working on. And oh boy, with some of them side quests, because they're all fetch quests. Or go to place and talk to dude. That's the only structure of side quests we got. And maybe there'll be a mini boss you go bop. It's clear the MMO team was on the quest design for this game. And probably the world design too, because it feels like Final Fantasy XIV zones when you're running around them. So we know what they were doing, and they did in fact have their attention split. This does not.
They're horribly garishly colored, and then they all turn grey after a major story event.
Yes, actually.
Oh, that sucks.
Well,
they copy the good ones.
Well, they don't turn gray. At least they the lights just get turned off because storm clouds show up and won't go away. But it's okay. They brought the color back for the Leviathan DLC. Somebody remembered you have to turn the lights on to make a fun zone. So yeah, there you go. That's my Final Fantasy 16 talk. Thank you for coming to my TED talk. That's all I got. I spent all week trying to parse my thoughts for this, and culmination of many weeks of work and a new graphics card to get through this mess. And I honestly don't even know if I'll keep the push on to make it to the next difficulty, so that I can play it at the appropriate difficulty yet, or if I'll put the game on hold. It may in fact get put on hold as soon as it gets unlocked. As I finish this zip play, I'm about halfway there, and I'm burnt on the game already. Too much of that running around was too slow. So I doubt you'll be hearing more Final Fantasy 16 from me in the future. This has been your PSA. We have Zaloning coming out next week. Me and Vol will probably both pull for her. I've got pretty much everything I could reasonably farm aside from Mora needed and the talent materials. And the boss drops, obviously, because their boss ain't out yet. But I've got the EXP books gathered. I think I've got enough EXP books, and I think I've got...
That's a lot of freaking EXP books.
Yeah, well, I've been doing...
You need like 120 purples or something to max a character.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of ley lines.
You legit have 120. I'm talking about skill books. I'm not talking about EXP books.
Oh no, not skill books. That's what I mean. Those are the talent level up materials. I don't have those.
I have like 900 EXP books, and I've got more for days. It's the things that actually require effort that I don't have.
Yeah, I've got. I need to go get more EXP books. That's not enough, I don't think. That's 213 purples and 313 blues. That's probably not enough. Close, but it's not enough, I don't think. But Mora EXP books, and I need to get the talent books for Zalonin. So I've been banking my resin to go do the node tomorrow. I'll dump as much as I can then, and try and stockpile. Gotta save refreshes for we've got the head start on the gear from the domain. So
I got trash. Like, it's such bad gear. It was horrible.
We might be able to put a placeholder on at least. And
I've got placeholders, yeah, but they're all really bad. I got so many flat stats. It's just flat stats all day.
I got a couple of pieces that might work out okay after I invest levels, and we'll see what they roll. But we got her something to equip anyway. Weapons. I've got a couple swords just laying around that I've been looking to find a home for. Like the EM's Freedom Sworn ain't gonna do anything. I have a Skyward Blade that I have not really done anything with, because I don't have on-field sword characters, but maybe she can use it for the energy recharge.
I don't really have anything. I might get corralled into having to pull her signature because I just don't have anything to go with. Because I've got a lot of sword characters, and they're pretty much all the weapons are spoken for.
Yeah, I've got yeah, she wants a defense weapon, I know, but I don't think
There's craftable.
Yeah, there's the craftable one.
But you've already burned all of your crafting capacity on
Ualani's thing.
On catalysts, haven't you?
Yeah. So yeah, but I've got options for a sword. I don't think I shouldn't have to go retard and pull her weapon. I've got options here.
I don't have too many. I think most of mine are spoken for. Like, I don't have very many swords to begin with, but like Absolution is on Clorinda, and there it will stay. Wolffang is on Farina, and there it will stay. Favonia's sword is on Jean, and it's basically her signature, so there it will stay. Sacrificial is on Traveler, and it pretty much has to stay there because, EM. Not EM, ER is necessary to run Dendro Traveler, and lots of it. Of the rest, I think the only spare that's still floating around untethered is probably the one that you get for the Kazuha storyline, and my 4 copies of Lion's Roar, plus my one lonely prototype Rancor. And I think that's basically everything.
I think you get the prototype Rancor for just ranking up adventure rank.
Yeah, I think they sort of push you into that one.
Yeah.
I just don't have that many. I don't have that many to go to go around. So yeah, I might have no choice but to pull for one. Maybe I'll get something compatible while I'm pulling for her. Who knows?
Yeah,
But
I've
I guess I could buy one on the next battle pass or something that will suit. But
yeah.
I don't know how good they are for her or whatever. I don't know. They don't seem to me like they would be terribly good for her. They don't seem like a good fit because then, of course, they don't scale with defense. There's just not that much that does, to be honest.
Yeah, and she's if you're not going for defense, we can't use EM on her because she's Geo. So energy recharge is really your only secondary.
Yeah, but that's already like my energy recharge weapons are already spoken for. Like they're on John and Traveler.
Yeah,
So
I've
and
got
Traveler becomes useless if you take it away.
yeah, I've got a Skyward Blade that has energy recharge as
Then
a set, so I
then
should be okay.
again, Nahida will allow Traveler to be retired eventually. Not that I've got a catalyst either.
Yeah, you need an EM catalyst for Nahida, and that's non-negotiable.
I don't know. I don't even really know what catalysts are available which are suitable for her.
Sacrificial Fragments has EM. Uh, Sacrificial Fragments has EM. I'm looking. Oh, not that one.
Seriously.
Mapamare has EM,
I mean, you could use Winsith on anybody, right? Like anybody. Everything. Everybody uses Winsith.
but it's got crit damage, and Nahida doesn't care about that. It's not EM. I mean, it can proc EM.
Uh, well, I mean, Mapamare. I've got Mapamare on Klee, and Klee could use my Winsith instead.
Yeah. You can move the Mapamare onto Nahida. Yeah, Nahida's one that her signature.
Mapamare is generally speaking pretty contraindicated for her. Like most people don't like it. I don't know what the reasoning is. Like I don't know if the reasoning is that you want so much EM on Nahida because you don't have an EM weapon, or you just want all the EM ever.
On her, you want all the EM ever for two reasons. One, all the Dendro crap she enables scales its damage up with EM, and number two, she has a passive talent that just I forget what level she unlocks it. Not a constellation, a talent that just converts EM into every other offensive stat, and
Right.
just flat bonus damage.
Because I know this is the case for lots of Honkai Star Rail characters, is that what you build on the rest of the character is in a sort of a push-pull relationship with which rope do you pick and which boots do you pick. Like, there's a lot of characters that can use attack boots or speed boots, depending on what your attack or speed is in the rest of your build, or that can use like energy recharge or some other stat on the rope, depending on what's on the rest of your gear.
Yeah, for Nahida, it's as much elemental mastery as you can cram on her, and that's really all she really. Everything else is fluff.
Why you have to be so difficult, Nahida? You walking radish.
I mean, she is very picky, but at least she only wants one thing, and she knows what she wants. But yeah, she is so coded for EM that the spreadsheet of I don't know when they updated it, but some updates ago updated her goblet to include EM goblet on par with Dendro damage goblet.
I don't actually know who Dendro damage is attached to when you do a Dendro reaction.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how all the math works. Oh, but in addition, Nahida gives her EM to the rest of the significant portion of her EM to the rest of the party when the matrix scales directly off of her elemental mastery. So she's gonna make sure everybody gets a piece of hers. Her signature weapon is one of the most recommended for catalyst users that use EM. Period. End.
Which is mostly Dendro characters, though, and ones that are interacting with Dendro characters. There's just not that many reaction-based catalysts that aren't related to Dendra in some way these days.
Yeah. Well, apparently you can use it on Mualani. If you
Well,
go the
Mualani's
vape route.
vaporized, so... Well, doesn't everybody go the vape route generally?
For the Hydro mains, if they are doing just one big hit of Hydro, Mualani's really the only one. For the other way round in vape, yeah, they do it. But yeah, we'll have but Nahida's still at least 3 weeks off, and I can help you with Nahida, and we can figure stuff out depending on how this
You mean
loading
you
pools
still
go.
need gear for Nahida, so we're gonna have to farm anyway.
Yeah, I'll have to go bop that domain a little bit, but we have another support that's going to need our help first. We need to get ours alone in talent materials, boss materials, all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah. There's gonna be a lot of farming of that boss, I think. Is it gonna drop the wrong element crystals?
I don't know.
It's going to, isn't it?
It probably. Ulani was off crystal. I had to use the abyss dust. Got her boss drop from a fire boss.
That makes sense, right?
Does use fire in her best team, but it's yeah. But yeah, we can do that during the next show. We can take our roller skates over there and go kick it. So, looking forward to seeing how she performs. Hopefully she's as busted for Geo, and well, she's busted for everybody, but hopefully she's as busted for Geo as she is for everybody else, and can get our Geo ladies some nice needed buffs and sustain for their teams.
I'm not sure that Navia needs any more buffs. All she needs is ammunition. She doesn't need buffs.
Yeah, but now we have ammunition and buffs. She's still not Nuvalette because she still has to hit those crazy numbers. We still need 3 characters.
She still needs Barbara. I think that's the real thing about Nuvalette is Nuvalette has a Barbara rolled into him.
Yeah, he is completely self-sufficient. You could reasonably, probably with a built Nuvalette, clear an entire side of the Spiral Abyss by himself easily, up to like floor 11.
People post videos of doing it all the time.
Yeah, he's just too
They're
buzzed.
really tricked out. Because the other thing about having a super busted character is that there's a really strong incentive to just keep farming gear from him until you've got perfect gear, because it's always going to pay off. He'll be in every team. He'll be relevant in all content.
Yeah.
With other characters, you've got to sort of triage. Okay, I need to spend this much effort here and this much effort there, but all Nuvalette effort pays off because Nuvalette goes in every team.
Yeah, like Florinda maybe super good and do a lot of damage, but she needs a Dendro with her to get the aggravates going or the hyperblooms going. Navia maybe do a cracked amount of damage, but you need to get her the ammo. Like they're powerful characters besides Nuvalette in the game, but they are not self-sufficient. They need a friend, at least one friend, preferably 2 friends. I guess with Navia, you also need somebody to put an element on the enemy. Yeah, so. But we'll get all that, go over that next week, I think. I'm about done. I don't have anything else. Final Fantasy 16 was all I really had.
The next chapter of the story should be out as well. And I don't know how much of it I'm going to have time to actually do before the next show, because this coming week is going to be brutal for me. It's extremely brutal. Possibly one of the more brutal weeks I've had to do in some time, and considering it's already been rough lately, I'm dreading the thought. But unfortunately, I've had lots of expectations placed upon me to accomplish things that take far longer than the time I've been allotted to do them, and people keep doing things that waste my time constantly. Don't know why, but that seems to be the way things are. Being in charge of people sucks.
No, you need a farm dandelion.
I know. At least she makes air, so it's not going to be as hard. I'll just have to go to the places where they are.
So yeah, my week this week will probably be very similar to next week, except today I will be out. Or it wasn't as bad hit as I thought it would be. I had about 4 hours of free time every evening this week, with the rest of my hours when I was online, tabbed out gathering documents for taxes. But I've got through the document gathering step. Next is
You get about 90 minutes a day tops.
Yeah, that's your own life choices going into your own industry. But yeah.
No, it's not. It's not my fault. It's not my choices. It's the fact that everybody on this planet is incompetent for some reason.
Yeah. That's Earth. But
So I chose to be born on the wrong planet is the problem.
Yeah, I got my document gathering done. I'll be doing data organization this week, which is more time demanding but more flexible in when I can do it because I'm not on timers with the banks. So I can spread it out or take it home. And then next week will be after data organization will be final checks and some first submission, and so if all goes to plan, I'll have a week left in October where I'm not in Hell Week.
As my boss likes to say, my life would be so much easier if I didn't have to deal with customers or staff.
Oh yeah, what's actually going to happen is people are going to call me on the phone and some disaster is going to happen that's going to eat all my time. But we work with what days we got.
That old guy's going to want to return more stuff that you sold him.
Vincent Bachelor. I announced his name in public now. Hopefully he doesn't listen to the show. Or have a minion that does. So, okay. I will post the thing I posted in show host into live show chat because I think YouTube will not like us talking about it. But here's Ruben being based. If you want my opinions on it, I'm on the Discord. You usually find me for a few hours in the evenings before bed. Or in the very early mornings for a few hours before I go. Alright. Got anything else? I'm about to close this out.
No, I don't think so.
Alright. We will see y'all next